The story begins with a very tragic scene because we see how a boy throws himself into an abyss, having as his last thoughts why he was born so weak and whether it would have made sense to keep on living, lamenting that he has achieved nothing whatsoever, plus they treated him like trash and now he feels he will die like that. Now we move to a group of adventurers who take charge of eliminating a giant rat, with the mage Yolan throwing at it a powerful fireball, thus finishing off the creature completely. This fight leaves the adventurers very happy because they think they are skillful, so they call for the trash picker. But this guy, tired of them calling him like that, tells them that his name is A, and right when he says this he slips and falls. Seeing that, the adventurer points out to him how useless he is, to which the mage asks him to please be a bit kinder to him, since he is not from the high class like they are. On hearing this, Ein apologizes, justifying himself by saying that the backpack is very heavy, and right away he starts his work, telling us that he works as an appraiser and it is the lowest class because when they are born the goddess of light assigns them a job and the goddess of darkness gives them the abilities, plus if they train them they can improve a very great number of abilities. Nevertheless, jobs are inherited and they cannot be changed, and there are also 3 job categories where at the base they have the low class where there are farmers and appraisers who are no good for fighting. Above that is the high class which includes people like Soid and Yoli, and above everything is the special class, where there are rich merchants and strategists. Having all that in mind, we know that jobs are inherited. Therefore children continue with the craft of their parents. However, since the Proto lost his own parents very young, he could not continue with the business, so he chose the other path for those of his class, that is to say, to become an adventurer dreaming of becoming rich. But now, seeing how he is, he feels disappointed about it. Then, using his evaluate skill, he discovers that the rat they have just killed has a rarity index of F, that is, the lowest, but its teeth are rank D, so with all his strength he tries to pull them out. Still, he cannot do it alone, so he asks his companions if they can help him. Obviously those lousy guys refuse, since according to them, because he is the trash picker he is the one who takes care of the trash, which angers him and he looks at them with deep disdain, something that darn Soid notices and kicks him, since they risk their lives to keep him safe, so the least he can do is at least pick up the trash. On hearing that, the Proto knows it is true, so since he cannot do anything he just apologizes and starts doing his job alone, while the lousy adventurers only mock how disgusting what he is doing is, adding too that the work he is doing is unnecessary, because anyone can take that corpse to the guild and there they will evaluate it with magic tools, something the protagonist knows very well. So he gives that adventurer the reason because he only serves to find and extract materials from monsters, plus the only reason why they allowed him to be in their group is because Soy does not want corpses in his magic bag. All this depresses him a lot, but in his mind he only repeats to himself that he has to endure. On the way they run into the corpse of a hellhound, so they order the trash picker to collect whatever it has. Although for our guy this seems very strange because according to the guild this monster should not be in this dungeon. Even so, Soy does not care about this and yells at him to do his job. And well, our protagonist does not have many options, since the materials of that creature are worth a lot. On top of that, while A was doing his work, the adventurers managed to see in the distance another hellhound corpse. That is more than enough for A to know that there is something strange, because the guild map says this should not be a passage. As was to be expected, Soy does not care about this either and just tells him not to complain about trifles, also by the way threatening him, saying that if he does not go with them then they will kick him out of the group. Faced with that, the protagonist knows very well that with his job there are not many groups that will accept him, so with no other choice he goes with them. Even so, in his mind he repeats again that this world is unfair. Once they enter that passage they run into more hellhound corpses, so he tells Soid that it is clear something is happening here because he wonders what or who could have finished them off, and if it was an adventurer, why did he not take anything? At those words, the adventurer yells at him to shut up. When he says that, right in front of them a bunch of hellhounds appear, and our protagonist notices that the corpses are from the same pack and that they were eating each other to survive. Obviously that pack scares everybody. So, to survive, that lousy Soy tells Yolan to cast a paralyzing spell on Ein, thus leaving the protagonist as bait. In the very process of being eaten, the Proto notices that the pain cancelled the paralysis, so he takes advantage of that to free himself. But since life is unfair, he discovers that the adventurers blocked the exit. As he advances through another passage, it leads him toward an abyss, and he realizes the sad reality he is in because now he only has 2 options. The first is to be eaten by hellhounds, or to throw himself into the abyss and possibly die, thinking that if he is going to die anyway, then at least he will throw himself into the abyss and hope for a quick death. Once he falls, he is awakened by the kiss of a girl, but he quickly faints again, and when he opens his eyes once more he is surprised that he is still alive and above all with his wounds healed. Then he notices a huge tree from which some drops of water are falling, and when he evaluates those drops he finds out that they are drops from the world tree. According to legends, it is the one that produces mana, and through the oxygen it emits, magic can be created. Yet it was believed that this tree had died. Even so, they wondered why there was mana if the tree had died, so they made expeditions to look for more world trees. He thanks the tree for having saved him. Even so, he knows he cannot stay, since there is nothing to eat, and besides he very much doubts his companions will send him help. Once he is in front of the exit, he imagines there must be much stronger monsters. Still, taking a stone, he knows he has to keep going. On the way he tells us that he has not run into any monster, which makes him very happy, thinking that if he manages to find the exit he will be able to escape, although then something quickly cuts his ear and then 2 fingers. This is the work of a gremlin, which is rank S, and this very same creature knocks him down a ton of times again. But just when it was going to finish him off, the monster is paralyzed and then crushed by a much stronger creature, which is a death bear or dead bear, which mercilessly with its claws destroys the prota's eyes and then grabs him to squeeze him so hard that it makes him vomit blood. Still, right then someone finishes off the bear, making it very clear to the prota that he should not get confused because this is not being done for him. After that, Ein wakes up noticing that his wounds have been healed, and on top of that, he is in front of a girl who turns out to be a gorgeous elf. That elf offers him a bit of tea. Yet our protagonist still did not understand anything, so the elf called Ursula makes him drink it by force, since she was not going to allow him to reject her daughter's tea. And when Ein drinks it he points out that it is very tasty, something that makes the elf called Yuri very happy. However, the mother tells the boy that if he has impure thoughts about her daughter, she will erase him from the map. After that, Ursula tells him she saved him because Yuri insisted she do it, so she asks him to thank her, which the good guy does by saying, "Thank you very much, Yuri." This does not please Ursula at all, who kicks him, telling him he cannot call her by her name. Then the elf mother tells him that she is the guardian of the world tree, adding that in this world there are 9 trees like this. And she says that Yuri is her daughter because she saw her grow from when she put down roots, something that confuses Ein, so Ursula tells him that Yuri is the will of the tree, in other words, she is its spirit. Faced with that, the prota remarks that no wonder she is so beautiful, earning himself another beating from Ursula, who yells at him that they did not give him back the eye for him to be using it like that. On hearing that, Ein remembers that he had lost his eye and obviously had been left very wounded, to which Ursula answers that she healed the wounds with drops from the world tree. But since that did not restore his eye, they decided to use part of the tree to make him an artificial one. So now it can be said that it is a spiritual prosthetic eye, and the elf mother stresses there that she did it at Yuri's request. So Yuri tells him she did it because the prota thanked the tree, that is, he also thanked her. It is there that Ursula tells him that sometimes other adventurers also fall down there, but even though Yuri saves them, those jerks take some branches from the tree and on top of that they do not thank her. After that, the elder elf tells the prota that since she has already saved him twice, he must leave, which worries Yuri a lot, since there are strong enemies on the way to the exit. Even so, her mother mentions that she is only allowed to get away from her up to a certain point and therefore she cannot accompany the boy to the exit. Despite that, her daughter keeps insisting, even to the point of starting to cry, so with no other choice Ursula tells our protagonist that she is going to train him, because that way he will be able to go out to the surface by himself. Obviously this makes our protagonist very happy, he even cries too, because he has hopes that he will be able to get out alive. After that, Ursula takes him to the dungeon corridors, where she teaches him that since he has a spiritual eye he can see in the darkness clearly, so our protagonist, remembering Yuri, at last manages to see in the dark. Thus Ursula tells him that at last his training begins, so quickly with a stone, she attracts the attention of a gremlin, obviously so that the prota learns to dodge attacks, advising him to use his evaluate skill because according to her words, evaluating with a spiritual eye is very different from doing it with a human eye. And indeed she is right, because when the prota uses his skill he notices that now in the information it shows what the creature will do, in this case that it will cut his right ear, and since the Proto does not dodge it, he unfortunately receives the damage. So with no other choice, Ursula the Crazy heals him using the drops of the World Tree, and tells the poor Proto that no matter how hard they hit him, she can heal him right away. So he will master these techniques on the very edge of death. Then Ursula sends him to fight again. So our protagonist, thinking much better, decides to use his spiritual eye even more, so he uses reevaluate, now managing to see at what moment it will attack, which will be in 5 seconds, so calculating the exact moment he dodges it, which excites him because it is the first time he dodges a rank S creature. And for that very reason the gremlin takes advantage of the situation and cuts him. Still, this excites him because if he manages to master his skill, he is sure his world will change. And so weeks go by where we see how the Proto can now dodge normally, although from time to time he gets distracted and receives some cuts. Obviously Ursula the Crazy informs him there, by the way, that it is time to move on to the next lesson, and this is that he must defeat the gremlin, giving him a wooden sword, but obviously it is not common since it comes from the very World Tree. This is of course given by Yuri, who tore off a branch just so Ein could defend himself. Ursula threatens him, telling him that if he breaks it she will split him in two, something the protagonist accepts in fear. Even so, in his mind he thanks Yuri for this. Once the fight begins, the protagonist, using his evaluate skill, tries to hit it, but the creature dodges, and the elf tells him that he will never hit it while being that slow. So Kanan asks her what he should do, and faced with that, the kind elf tells him to figure it out by himself. Then the protagonist keeps trying to hit it, but obviously he cannot. So Ursula, fed up with all this, asks him if by any chance he can only see movements with the spiritual eye. On hearing that, Ein knows he must force his spiritual eye even more, so he uses super evaluate, thus managing to see everything in slow motion. Then, when he strikes the gremlin, he smashes it against the floor, because even though he was seeing everything in slow motion, the movement was incredibly fast. Seeing this, the protagonist becomes very happy, since he defeated a rank S. Then Ursula hits him, telling him that it is still far too soon to celebrate, because now he will have to finish off all the gremlins in the area, and incredibly, after a while, he does it. So the elf mother tells him that as his next lesson he will use his evaluate skill to turn a gremlin skill into his own. She explains to him that when he uses evaluate on them he will absorb all the experience of that skill, and this thanks to the spiritual eye. So the protagonist, using evaluate, obtains the super acceleration skill, although as a side effect his head hurts incredibly. After that he tries that skill, and although he is fast, it also tears his muscles, which was to be expected, because he was not born to use that skill. So Ursula the Crazy tells him to keep running again and again so that his muscles will get used to it. After that, the Proto feels much more confident to defeat a dead. However, Ursula tells him to lower that pride, since he is still not ready, which makes Ein sad. So the elder elf tells him she will let him evaluate her skill. Even so, she tells him that her skill is called spell suppression, which allows her to use magic just by thinking it, which means she does not have to recite the spell, and obviously Ein is having a hard time, since to evaluate he has to be hit by fireballs. After a few days he finally begins to use magic, yet since he has little magical capacity he faints right away. Whenever this happens, Yuri uses a drop from the World Tree which refills his mana and even increases his magical capacity, yet it has to be done every single time he runs out of mana because otherwise it does not work, so after a month and a half he already manages to cast mid-level magic and on top of that 1000 fireballs. Seeing all this, Ursula remarks that it is already about time for the rematch, obviously one against a dead. Even so, when the protagonist sees it, he feels afraid and very nervous, so Ursula calms him by telling him that if he puts his training into practice, he will win without any problems. Then, just like that, she throws him out. With no other choice, the prepared MC stands in front of the bear and starts with the fireballs, which, because he is nervous, he misses, yet they serve him as a smoke screen, and by using super acceleration together with his evaluation he uses his wind-cutting magic. Yet obviously since he was not born as a mage his spells are very weak and the bear manages to endure those attacks. So to make up for that he starts throwing 100 fireballs, thus at last managing to defeat a dead, which makes him ask himself whether the dead bear were really that weak. Yet when he thinks it over he knows it is not that, but rather that now he is stronger. Immediately after that, Ein absorbs the dead's abilities, which were superhuman strength and steel jaws. At that, Ursula leaves, saying that his training has already concluded, so the only thing left for him is to climb up to the exit. However, after this they go to Yuri, since she has asked her mother to give him a present, which turns out to be a gem, which is what remains of the spiritual core of the world tree. Adding that with this she will make him another artificial eye. Once they do it, the MC notes that he does not feel strange, so the elf mother tells him that with time the great power of his divine spiritual eye will make him cry with gratitude. Then he notices that Yuri has disappeared, and this is because she is inside his eye, explaining to Ursula that since he now has the whole spiritual core in his eye, it is as if he had the divine tree in it, which means that Yuri can now dwell in his eye. At that, the blonde girl yells at him that he will be able to heal her with all the drops of the world tree that he wants, even if she likes the idea. He asks Ursula how she feels about this, and obviously, she makes it clear with a kick that she does not like entrusting her precious daughter to a bumpkin she does not know at all. Even so, she will let her go, because since Yuri was born she has had only her and has never had friends and has always been alone. She admits that even though the MC is a textbook dunce, deep down she knows he has a good heart, so she entrusts him with showing Yuri the world, something he accepts as he tells her that he will take good care of her daughter. At this, she gives him another farewell gift, which is a mark on his hand, since she has imbued it with the infinite storage spell, which obviously allows him to store unlimited objects in that seal on top of it. After that she hands him a sword, which she has forged with the materials she gave Yuri, and out of nowhere she stabs it into his eye to then force him to swallow a philosopher's stone, which makes it so that when he swallows it, it synchronizes with his eye, allowing Ursula to see and communicate with him. In short, she will always be watching him, always keeping an eye on how he is treating her daughter. Then, before leaving, Ayn asks Yuri what she would like to do once they are up there, to which she answers that she would like to see her family, telling Ursula that at the beginning the world tree was a single enormous tree whose branches and core were divided into 9 parts and were hidden in several dungeons. So, Ayn promises her that they will travel around the world and they will find her family, something that Yuri, in tears, thanks him for. On the way to the exit, Ursula informs him that an enemy is coming and also shows him where he has to go out, so the MC goes ahead and manages to defeat the creature. After that, the elf mother absorbs the serpent's abilities for him. However, right then he notices that his head does not hurt. That is when Yuri appears, telling him that she has healed him and thanks to her his head will not hurt every time he absorbs abilities. Very grateful, the MC strokes her head and tells her that he is really happy to have met her, which of course leaves Yuri very flushed. After a while he comes across a door. There, Ursula tells him that inside is the boss of the dungeon, who protects the core, and he will not be able to leave until he defeats it. This makes Ayn nervous, since he imagines that he might lose, yet Yuri appears and tells him that everything will go very well, and she also knows that he will be able to do it. In the same way, Ursula supports him, though in her own style, telling him to hurry up and defeat it so they can reach the surface. With all this, very determined, he enters together with Yuri, causing a summoning circle to activate from which the boss of the dungeon comes out. So he quickly tells the elf that since it is dangerous she should return to his eye, and once she does, he begins the fight, approaching with super acceleration and with superhuman strength he tries to tank the boss's blow. But it is as strong as a meteorite and he can barely withstand it. Even so, he does not give up and uses dissolving poison, which makes the boss get angry and strike him anyway. At that, Ursula tells him that she will lend him one of her spells, something that Ayn finds good. So in front of the golem she casts the powerful spell Nova Strike, with which she melts the boss completely. Seeing that, Yuri comes out and while she heals him she congratulates him on his victory. Likewise, RMC, taking Yuri's hand, tells her that without her he would not have made it, which makes the elf enter a love-struck state. At the same time Ursula, very furious about that, only orders him to absorb the golem's abilities, and so he does. However, the elf mother tells him to do the same with the core, and when he was about to do it, Ursula appears through the divine eye. This is because she will be able to strengthen his eye with the labyrinth's core. So the MC tells her to please improve it, and when Ursula does so, he notices that his spiritual eye rose to level 2, and there the elf mother also tells him that if he finds more labyrinth cores he will be able to improve it even more. Upon leaving the place, the door closes, thus sealing the entrance to the Tree of Life, so now, in Ursula's words, Yuri from now on will be able to live in peace, which suits them, since they will be able to leave without worries, and so they do, very happy. Now moving to another scene, we see how the scoundrel Soid is telling the tragic story of how Ein died, since he said that he would take care of everything while he and the mage escaped. While talking about this, he supposedly starts crying just to make people pity him, since in his mind he knows that the dead do not talk. So the truth will never be known. But what he did not count on was that behind him was Ein. This surprises him so much that he only asks him how he got out of there alive. To this our MC answers by saying that it was by defeating monsters, something that Soid, grabbing him by the cloak, does not believe since it seems impossible to him. Seeing this, the other adventurers ask him that if the one who saved his life is still alive, then why is he not happy? It is then that he decides to tell the truth, saying that Soid and Yolen paralyzed him. They were going to use him like that as bait while they fled, which leaves Soid in a bad light and earns him everyone's contempt. At that, he stops them, since after all he is grateful to Soid for having accepted someone like him into his group. Having said that, he withdraws, thus returning to Ursula and Yuri. After that, he kept improving his eye by defeating another dungeon boss. Then, while walking through a forest, they talk about how they will find the other world trees. However, some screams interrupt them, so he quickly heads to the place, saving a group of people from some dragons. When he asks a pink-haired girl if she is all right, she quickly hugs him, saying that she has already found her hero. Then, the boy who was accompanying her introduces himself as Hasper, the head of a trading company, and in turn he introduces the pink-haired girl as Claudia Benita, the third princess of these lands. After that, they go to her mansion to thank him for having saved her. She also tells the MC not to be so formal and to call her by her name, something he accepts. Immediately Claudia throws herself at Ein, but Yuri appears, stopping her, which surprises Claudia, so she asks her why she stopped her. It is then that Yuri yells at her that she is Ein's wife, something that leaves the MC shocked. At that, the pink-haired girl understands the reason. Even so, she insists that in that case she will become his second wife, which also leaves poor Yuri speechless, since she will have competition. Then Hasper asks if he could talk with him for a moment, because he also wants to marry our MC, saying that he will explain it shortly. On the way he tells him that he is the head of the guild called Gino, showing him that his mission is to protect the jewels of the world. And he also knows that the MC has a spiritual eye, telling him that long ago the world tree was on the surface to seal Victora, the demon king of misfortune who tried to destroy the world, revealing there that Hasper has been searching for a spiritual core for a long time and, upon seeing his eye, has become smitten with it, which makes Ein uncomfortable. So Ursula takes him away, asking him what he will do with the proposal, insisting that he think it over well, since as that man has been looking for more spiritual cores, he surely knows something about the world trees, so if he marries him, he will have access to his money and information. Even so, the MC does not want to marry him, so he asks if they can be friends instead. For the moment this seems fine to Hasper, adding that from now on he can live here. All this while he hugs him and gives him affection. In the same way Yuri and Claudia come in, hugging him. After that he asks him if he knows anything about the other cores, to which Hasper answers yes. Then the MC tells him that perhaps he can recover the cores, which surprises Hasper and he decides to prepare everything. Then, after that, they arrive at the secret dungeon that Hasper mentioned, our protagonist hoping to meet one of Yuri's sisters inside, telling her on the way not to worry, promising her that he will make sure they meet again, and that calms the beautiful elf. While Ein is walking through the corridor, he realizes that the path has no exit, something that Ursula, through her eye, confirms to him, telling him that the wall has a teleportation spell, and if he touches it, he will be able to enter the dungeon. So Ein does it and is quickly transported to a jungle. There the elf mother tells him that it seems there are very powerful illusions capable of altering his interior, assuming that all this is a mirage, which amazes the MC a lot, and he asks how there can be something so incredible, although just then a girl's voice can be heard, who greets Yuri and shouts to her that it has been a long time. On hearing that, our elf comes out and recognizes that voice as her younger sister Penis, who had been watching them from a distance, wondering whether her sister had allied herself with a human. Then Yuri asks her sister where she is, something she does not answer, and instead she only shouts to them that she will be waiting for them at the end, adding that she hopes they do not get lost on the way. And just like that she goes away, wishing them luck. However, at that the MC stops her, telling her that Yuri went through a lot to see her, so she should come by teleporting, to which Pina apologizes, since she cannot use that, mentioning that the only way will be for them to come to where she is, so with no other option he accepts. Then the younger sister tells them that she put many traps in the dungeon she built, besides it being full of monsters and artifacts, so she cannot promise them that they will arrive safe and sound. Even so, Yuri, very cheerful, tells her that she will do her best. On hearing that, her younger sister answers that the one who has to do his best is her boyfriend. Obviously this makes Yuri very happy, although she tries to hide it by telling her that she is mistaken and asking her what makes her think he is her boyfriend. Ain does not hear any of this, so since it is dangerous he asks Yuri to return to his eye, something she does. Then he begins to descend toward the jungle. Seeing this, Pina notices that the protagonist is very confident, so she tells him that of all the secret dungeons, hers is the hardest, so she recommends that he surrender at once. To all this, Ain only tells her not to worry. Also, on the way Pina watches him, knowing that in a moment he is going to fall into a hole. But just before this happens, Ursula warns the MC that he is about to step on a hole, and this is how our Ain ends up jumping over it and likewise begins to dodge all the traps, which of course annoys Pina a lot, and she yells at him that she worked very hard making those traps. Then Ursula also intervenes, shouting at her that they do not care, since the only important thing is to make Yuri happy. Then Yuri also joins in, telling the MC that to Pina it has always pleased her to do things for the enjoyment of others. Obviously our protagonist is shocked, since he does not think that is something others would enjoy, because if one step is wrong they could die. On hearing this, Pina says that her dungeons are not like that, since this one is made to expel them and there is real danger, adding also that he is going to face a tough monster, so she gives him the chance to surrender before they give him a beating, something that Ain obviously refuses. Then she warns him that an enemy is coming, this being an Iran, which is a humanoid S-rank monster that is capable of engendering plants, and this very creature throws at the MC a sleep-inducing pollen. Even so, it does not affect the MC because he has an ability to resist abnormal states. That annoys Pina a lot, calling Obviously after that he steals her ability, although right then something attacks him but it does not hurt him and he tries to look for where it comes from, yet Ursula tells him it must be using stealth. At that moment Pina asks him how it is that those attacks do not affect him, so he tells her that he possesses the ability to nullify ambush, besides also having the ability Unmoving Fortress, which prevents normal attacks from affecting him, something that annoys the pink-haired girl a lot. Even so, she points out that he will never be able to hit her silent ants. But just when she says this, the elf mother tells him that she has already located them. So the Prota uses gravity press, managing to finish off those ants, and of course he absorbs all their abilities. Faced with such a feat, Pina asks him how he can defeat monsters of rank S as if it were nothing, to which the Prota, while walking, tells her that one could say that Yuri gifted him some tricks. On hearing this, the pink-haired girl calls her sister stupid and, with tears in her eyes, apologizes for it. Despite everything that is happening, Pina stands up shouting that this will not be enough to discourage her, sending Ragni and Centauro toward the creatures, who are defeated with super acceleration. And as always, Ain steals their abilities. Seeing that, Pina gets discouraged again, asking the Prota if by any chance he is a monster. That is something he denies, telling her that he is a plain and ordinary Tazador. That leaves the younger sister speechless, and she shouts that everything he has done is what is plain about him, starting to curse everything. On the other hand, we see Soid walking through a jungle, although when he falls he starts asking himself, very angry, why this has to happen to him, and remembering the words of A makes him even angrier, beginning to say that it is all the fault of that trash picker. After that he heads to the tavern where the other drunkards look at him badly, recognizing him as the miserable one who used a companion as bait. There he meets Yoli, whom he asks where she had been. However, she asks him to stay away from her and, to defend her, Two men come in asking Soid if he is not the one who left Ein paralyzed and threw him to the wolves. Faced with that, the adventurer defends himself saying that Yolan cast the spell. But the wretch, while crying, shouts that she did not want to do that and that she did it because Soid threatened her. Seeing this, the adventurer knows that he is alone, and on top of that everyone in the world hates him. For that very reason, in the end they kick him out, warning him that no one will ever join his group again, which makes Soid extremely angry, stressing that anyone in his place would have done the same. Thus he asks himself why they are criticizing him, also thinking that Ein should have died in that place. Despite the anger he feels, he thinks about accepting some difficult assignment alone in order to fix his reputation. That is how he reaches the secret dungeon where Ein is, since there is an assignment to defeat a rank C monster. Even though he does not usually accept missions like that, he knows he can handle this. But when he hears a noise he gets scared, yet when he notices it is nothing, he is relieved while he leans on a wall, thus being transported to the jungle, so he quickly gets ready, since he knows it will be full of strong enemies like the Hellhound. Nevertheless, when he takes the first step he falls into a trap thinking he is going to die. Luckily nothing happens and he is only sent to the dungeon hallway where Pina tells the Mr. Adventurer that here nobody dies, saying goodbye to him and telling him to try again another time. On hearing that, Soid asks himself whose voice that is, but if what it says is true, then he is no longer afraid. And so he goes back in where he keeps trying, falling into each and every one of the traps, although the worst of all is when he is covered by a crocodile, but not just any one, rather a gigantic one which causes him a painful little wound on his arm. Faced with this, Pina tells him that if he gives up she will send him back to the hallway, something the adventurer refuses to do, since he plans to prove how strong he is. And it is right there that the crocodile crushes his wounded arm, and now that Soid is paralyzed with fear, it plans to eat him. However, Ein appears, decapitating the creature. At first he does not recognize him and he just stays impressed by the power of that guy, so he starts thanking him for having saved him. But when he sees that it is the Proto he gets scared, asking him what he is doing here, to which he replies that he came to clear the dungeon. And now Soid gets furious because it is impossible that a trash picker killed that creature with a single blow. Seeing the state Soid is in, Ein asks Yuri to heal him, something that surprises the adventurer, and he wonders whom he is talking to. Our pro is using some drops from the world tree and heals him, saying goodbye as well since he is in a hurry. Faced with that, Soid asks him to wait, but the Proto uses feint on the adventurer, also asking Pina to send him to the hallway, since the guy is surrendering. After a while, the protagonist reaches where the boss of the dungeon is, with Pina telling him that if he does not defeat it, he will never reach the princess, obviously referring to herself. That confuses Ein, since if he defeats the boss, the world tree will be sealed. However, Ursula answers him that nothing will happen as long as he does not destroy the core of the labyrinth. Thus the Proto has no problem and goes in without more. While walking he wonders which one the boss is. When he says that, the ground starts to shake, so using flight he takes height. Seeing that, he realizes that the boss is the terrain itself. Oh well, a giant turtle. With no other option, the Proto starts with fireballs which do not make even a scratch on it. It is then that Ursula perceives a familiar magic wave, but she will tell him afterward, since she has to concentrate on fighting. At that moment the Tortuga launches a water ball, which he, using his paravaluation and his sword, sends back using parry. Even so, this does not make the enemy even itch. It is then that he notices how the fireballs and the water ball impacted in other places. So, thinking of checking something, he places himself on the ground ready to receive an attack from the boss. And when it does so, Ein comes out unscathed, now knowing that that monster is only an illusion and not its real body. So he uses Dispel, thus discovering that it was a much smaller turtle. It is there that the elf mother tells him that it was a very powerful spiritual illusion that altered space, which, by the way, she herself could not see, so she congratulates the Proto for winning without her help. Immediately after that, Ein evaluates the little turtle. On seeing this creature's information, Ursula is surprised, but in the end she does not reveal why. After that, the Proto asks Pina if he has to finish off the little turtle, something she confirms. Even so, the Proto insists that he has already won, since he eliminated the illusion. On top of that, he shows her the turtle so she can see how pretty it is. Faced with such insistence and the loveliness of the little turtle, Pina gives up, thus accepting that the Proto won. As they keep moving forward, at last Yuri is reunited with her sister, and with a strong hug she spins her around. And when she puts her down she apologizes to her because she is too happy. That does not bother the dangerous one. In that moment she notices and points out that that guy made her suffer all this time. Even so, Yuri lets her know that he is a good boy. On hearing this, the younger sister tells her that she must be crazy about him, leaving the elf blushing and speechless, pointing out to her little brother that she is still just as cruel as always. But this also makes her happy, since it means she is just as cheerful as always. Changing the subject, Pina asks them if she can go with them, since she is tired of being in this place. And in exchange she will give them her spiritual core, something the couple agrees to. Although right then the little turtle climbs down from A's shoulder, transforming into a girl, who says she is Pina's guardian and daughter of the black turtle, whose name is Kuroime. She also greets Ursula and, being very nervous, apologizes for her insolence. Despite that, the black-haired girl does not seem to mind, since she prefers that she just call her Kuro, something that makes Ursula shout that that would be a lack of respect. Seeing this, Ein is astonished, since Ursula is being polite. It is there that the elf shouts to the Proto that first he needs the blessing of the Granagime, something that he very obediently does, asking her to let him take Pina with him, something the guardian accepts, asking Enkidu to do her a favor, that favor being to take her with him too, and so she gives him her Philosopher's Stone, which will allow Pina and her to travel with him just like Ursula and Yuri. On top of that she tells him that her ability is Barrier, which will surely be very useful to them. After a while they start the level up for the spiritual eye, reaching level 4, and there are Enkidu thinks that the more people the better. Besides, the important thing is that Yuri seems to be happy, which makes him very glad. There Ursula also thanks him for what he is doing, to which the Proto only answers that he is doing what anyone would do, and very determined in his mind he promises to find the other 6 sisters. On the other hand, we see how Soy wakes up noticing that once again he was saved by A, and when he remembers it he starts crying inconsolably. The next day, Hasper takes the Proto to the guild, where the latter asks him if he really had to come in person too, to which Hasper reassures him, telling him that although he may have reservations about falsified products, he knows that nothing will happen to him with him here. At that moment, both the receptionist and other adventurers are surprised that Hasper, the rich merchant, is here. So the receptionist welcomes him, telling him that in a moment she will call the boss right away. However, Hasper tells her that it will not be necessary, since he only came to accompany this man. Thus the girl asks Ein how she can help him. So he tells her that he would like to sell some objects he collected in several dungeons, adding Hasper there that afterward he would like to buy from them everything they sell him, something the receptionist accepts, now asking for his guild card. However, when the girl checks Din's card, she is surprised that it is rank F and on top of that a Tazador, shouting that she very much doubts that a Tazador can eliminate monsters. Thus the receptionist asks Hasper if he is sure he is not pulling a prank on her. Likewise, the other adventurers start laughing at the Proto's rank. Faced with that, Hasper asks Inito to show them the truth, so the Proto, obeying, shows them all the creatures he has defeated. At that moment, an adventurer notices that among those objects he has a skull of the immortal Re. Being such an exclusive object from a boss, they think he must have stolen it from somewhere, since it is impossible that someone of his class obtained something like that. All of this depresses poor Ein, saying in his mind that for this very reason he did not want to come to the guild, since he does not like to draw attention and he hates that people despise those of low class. Although right then, silencing everyone, a woman appears telling them that there is nothing more foolish than judging others by their work. And this powerful woman is the head of the Adventurers Guild of the capital, whose name is Megan. This same woman, looking at Inito, notices that he has a pretty eye, making our protagonist wonder if by any chance she knows that it is artificial. At that moment the receptionist checks the objects with the eye of truth, discovering to her surprise that all of them seem to be authentic. Thus Hasp asks them if it was clear to them, assuring them that the Proto has the necessary strength to kill monsters. Faced with that, the receptionist, afraid, apologizes for her insolence and the head of the guild asks him to accept her apologies, since she will scold her later. adding that judging someone for their work is arrogance. And she mentions to the prota that although their destinies are decided at birth, the fun thing about life is that there are people who refuse to follow what is dictated. That makes Ein happy, saying that seeing that there are people like them in the guild made him glad he had come. Those words delight the head of the guild. And taking him by the cape, she tells him that she likes strong boys, adding that our protagonist is exactly what she is looking for her guild. Although she only asks him to think about it, since in any case she feels that they will see each other again soon, and just like that she leaves. Returning to the receptionist, she asks him to wait in the waiting room while they process his objects. However, their Hasper interrupts, since he asks the protagonist to show the other objects he obtained for remembering the secret dungeon. That amazes the whole guild, since he finished a secret dungeon. In front of the whole crowd that approaches him, this makes poor Enkidu run away, and that same night he is bathing, pointing out that although he hates being despised, he also feels strange when they praise him that way. At that moment Yuri appears by his side. So quickly, very nervous, he moves away, and that annoying Yuri asks him why he moved away. Then Pina appears too, who explains to her sister that he did it because on seeing her naked, he let himself be carried away by lust. In the presence of them, the prota asks them what they are doing here, since this is the men's bath, to which Pina mentions that they are spirits, so why should they follow human rules? On seeing the prota embarrassed, Pina asks him if by any chance he thought naughty things with her sister, something he denies. However, when he looks at Yuri, both of them lock eyes and then get embarrassed because of it. On top of that, Ursula also appears, who asks Ein if he was looking at her daughter with lustful eyes. However, Inato does not answer her because he cannot see her that way. Then the elf mother stresses to him that Yuri is her treasure, and that if he touches her she will send him to the end of the world with her best spell. Something Yuri stops, telling her mother that Kan is a wonderful man, which makes Ursula think that Enkidu has already touched her. So the elf mother plans to pulverize the prota, something that Pina there supports. Once he leaves the bath, in front of him appears Kurojime, who is resting at a distance from the other elves, adding that on seeing how they are having fun she knows she did well in leaving Pina in his care. Faced with that, the prota asks her if the pink-haired girl is also like a daughter to her, something she confirms, telling him so in a certain way she gave birth to Pina, which makes one think that, just like her, the other 6 sisters will have mothers just as interesting, whereupon Koroimer corrects him by telling him that in reality there are 7. For although the first tree withered long ago, its core was not completely destroyed. On hearing this, Ein asks her if the first spirit is still alive. Kurojime confirms it to him, saying that this is the coolest older sister, who should be roaming somewhere together with her guardian. Since they do not know where the dungeons of the other trees are, our protagonist is not thinking of giving up because when he looks at Yuri he knows he owes her a lot, so he wants to help her to meet her family, so he tells Kurojime that he will do everything he can so that this will be fulfilled. At that, in the elf's mind, she knows that it is not his job nor his responsibility, yet even so he has a special power to attract people. On the next day, thinks that they have to gather all the information they can, but when he goes into a room he runs into Megan and Hasper, and the latter tells him there that the guild master came with a request for him, while Megan adds that it is something only Ein can do, asking him there if he knows the Vegemot. To that the protagonist answers that not at all, so Megan tells him that it is one of the powerful ancestral dragons of the demon King Mkturin, while Hasper also mentions there that it appeared and only attacks merchants and the carriages that pass through the area. That is why the chief came, because she would like RA to finish off the WS rank Vegemot, which, even though they know it could cost the protagonist his life, he still accepts since he will not let this pass if in that case they have problems. Thus both Megan and Hasper thank him for it. That is how, by shaking hands, both A and the chief come to an agreement. Now we see how the protagonist is in a desert where the Vegemot is supposed to be, telling Ursula that it is an earth dragon that can absorb magic and make its power its own. Because of that, the protagonist thinks that he will limit himself to using the sword and the skills. Then the elf mother also comments that during the day the Vegemot hides in the sand, so he will have to pull it out. So Ein uses Nova Strike, creating a gigantic hole from which the dragon comes out, asking what insolent creature dares to disturb its rest, making our protagonist know that until now it has never known defeat, since from the moment the Demon King created it, it has possessed an overwhelming power. That overwhelming power has made it desire that someone face it as its equal, because it is always bored. So when it sees the protagonist, it points out that he does not look like much, but it senses that he can use powerful magic, although there it remembers that magic does not affect it, so it tells him to introduce himself, something that the obedient protagonist does, telling it that his name is A and that he is going to defeat it. That makes the dragon laugh, recognizing that he is brave, but it asks him whether someone as fragile as him is really going to defeat it. At this, the protagonist confirms it and, to make it angry, tells it that if the Demon King created it, then it must not have been such a great thing. At such an offense, the Vegemot begins the attack. Even so, it dodges all the attacks using super acceleration, managing to get close enough to cut off one of its arms. Because of that, the dragon thinks of taking advantage of its own terrain and slips under the sand, thus making it so that the protagonist does not know where it is nor from where it is going to attack. The dragon knows this and takes advantage of the situation to burst out of the sand and eat him. Even so, from the creature's mouth a great explosion occurs. This clearly is caused by and in its last moments the dragon recognizes our protagonist as a devourer, and at the same time that at last it has known defeat. Once everything calms down, one of the pieces of the dragon asks how he defeated it, and he answers that he only had to throw a great spell at it from the inside of its body, because, as he analyzed, only its exterior absorbs magic, adding that it did not affect him because he raised a barrier. He also reveals to it that he had been chasing its mirage until he threw the spell at it, and that he provoked it so that it would lower its guard, although he expected that someone like it would notice that. So he throws in its face that it lost because of its arrogance against humanity. Instead of getting angry, the dragon acknowledges that it lost and congratulates our protagonist for having defeated an ancestral dragon, and in its mind it thinks that defeat is not bad at all, and that is how the dragon fades away in the air. At this, Ein feels a little bad, which Ursula notices, and she asks him what is wrong, to which he answers that even though the Vegemot was an evil being that attacked humans, that is how the Demon King made it, and he wonders what it could really have been like, asking himself what would have happened if he had never met Yuri and Ursula. That is when the elf mother encourages him, telling him that it was a monster born to kill people and that at no time in its life had it questioned that, concluding that the nature of one never changes, asking him then to evaluate his abilities, something that he does. When he finishes that, both Pina and Yuri appear, and they congratulate him, adding their Kuroime that only the hero who sealed Micturian has managed to kill an ancestral dragon, thus recognizing that Ein is too strong, something that he does not admit because he did it thanks to the strength that they gave him. Going back to the mansion, Claudia apologizes to the protagonist for not having come earlier to visit him. She says she came to be his second wife, or at least that is what she says, also adding that she invited him because her father wants to meet him, and that is how His Majesty appears, making the very scared protagonist bow before him. But there the bald man asks the protagonist to relax. Once they are seated, both girls hug Ein because these two want to be at his side. Then the Lord mentions that seeing that the future husband of his daughter is so famous makes him proud as a father-in-law, making the protagonist ask him what the hell he is talking about. Although then realizes that he answered without thinking. Changing the subject, the Lord tells him that Megan told him that he defeated the ancestral Vegemot. Therefore, as king, he thanks him, but the protagonist answers that he only did what they asked him to do. On hearing that, the king knows that it is just as his daughter described him. And this is that Claudia told him that he was very strong, handsome, and a very humble knight in spite of all the power that he has. He also adds that since he saved his daughter he must also thank him, something that Ein does not accept, because in that case he would have to thank Yuri, since without her he could not have done it. Thus the Lord thanks Yuri, but she, very shy, hides behind Ein's back. Then the king points out that Ein has the good gaze of someone who does not get drunk on power, being very sure that someday he will hold a good position. Then, before leaving, he gives him a watch with the royal emblem engraved on it, and not only that, because with it he will be able to go freely wherever he wishes, which comes in very handy to the protagonist, since he knows that with this he will be able to go to areas where he thought he could not. So he tells him that he accepts it humbly. With this said, they both say goodbye, and then, in the streets, people start talking about how our protagonist has defeated an ancestral dragon, so that one of them bumps into Soid, but they obviously do not apologize to him. When we see the adventurer, he says in his mind that wherever he goes, everyone talks about wanting them to shut up, since he was stronger than him until just recently, adding that that coward should still be at his side picking up garbage, wishing that he did not exist, something that a woman hears, and she tells him that maybe she can help him, introducing herself as a spirit called Chisna. Now on a morning we see how Yuri wakes up, and there also appears her sister Pina, who, even though she is bathed, her older sister notices that she has not dried her hair, something that Pina confirms, asking her to dry it for her. And so, just like that, Yuri, very happy, does it, although then she looks worried. This is because Kan still has not woken up, so Pina asks her not to worry too much, because even their mother said that it is only tiredness. Seeing that Yuri is still worried, she asks her why she does not cook something for him so that he recovers. That seems like a fantastic idea to the elf, making her even move her little ears. With all that decided, Pina tells her that they will go shopping, being very excited because it has been a long time since they went out together. Although then Yuri asks her if it is a good idea to get so far away from A. Even so, Pina tells her to calm down. Besides, she asks her how likely it is that something will happen to them. That convinces Yuri, so she ends up accepting. Going back now to the adventurer Soid, he asks Chitna what she wants from him. To which she, knowing what the adventurer feels, answers that he seems to hold a deep grudge against a certain Tazador. At the same time we see how the protagonist is in a dream or nightmare. This is because he can see how they treated him badly and he only showed a smile, even though they also paid him very little. The protagonist could only be thankful for this because Soid told him that someone like him did not deserve even a single coin. Therefore he had to be more thankful to him. All this that A was seeing disgusted him. However, the worst of all is that he also sees how he could have ended, that is, as food for hellhounds. At the same time that he sees his own corpse, he realizes that if he had not met Yuri, that would have been his end, something that his corpse confirms to him, telling him that he only got lucky by receiving that spiritual eye and that by himself he would not have become stronger. Thus the trash will always keep being so no matter what he does, shouting to him that he cannot change his nature. This is more than enough for the protagonist to wake up very scared. When Ursula sees him like that, she asks him if he is all right. Their Kanan, confused, does not even know where he is, only remembering that he met the king. For that very reason the elf tells him that he overworked himself too much and that he has been sleeping for a while. On hearing this, Inato apologizes because he did not mean to cause problems. Then Ursula adds that Yuri and Pina were worried, and that they have gone out to the city. This worries him and he asks if they will be all right, something that the mother answers by telling him that she is tracking their location in real time, and that if something happens to them they will go there immediately. With all this said, he gets up and she tells him that he should rest more, because he was shouting too much, something that the protagonist, embarrassed, confirms because he had a bad dream. He tells her that meeting them changed his destiny because right now he should be in the stomach of a hellhound, being very sure that he only had luck and that he is where he is thanks to the strength that was granted to him, thinking that deep down he has not changed, considering that he is still only trash, just like Soid said at the time. Then we go to the person in question, whom we see still talking with the Chisna, who tells him that she could help him to take revenge on the Tazador he holds a grudge against, asking him there if he knows the spiritual eyes and informing him that the Tazador he hates possesses one, and that this is the key to how he obtained so much strength without having made an effort. Obviously this enrages Soid too much, and he shouts that he was sure that he had done something strange, because it is impossible for someone of his level to have become so strong. That is something that Chitna confirms, giving him all the reason, so she takes advantage of the situation to ask him whether he does not want a spiritual eye, something that obviously Soid accepts without thinking. That is how Chisna shows him one. On seeing such an eye, Soid at last thinks that he will be able to finish off Ein. However, the elf embeds it directly in his forehead, causing the adventurer to turn into a frightening creature. On seeing how he is, Ekna only tells him little one, which is the signal for Soid to go on the attack. When he makes a tremendous jump we see how he still keeps his consciousness, noticing that his body no longer feels heavy, pointing out that it is as if he had freed himself from his heavy human shell. And on the way he sees Yuri in the distance, so he quickly positions himself in front of her, scaring her companion, who, drawing his sword, thinks of attacking, but immediately he devours his head. Then the creature asks Yolan what she is going to do, since now she has no one to defend her. On hearing that voice, The girl, very scared, recognizes him as Soit, and since she has no escape, she simply starts apologizing, pleading with him to please forgive her for everything. She is even so desperate that she promises that she will tell the guild that the paralysis thing was her idea. And that is not all, because she even tells him that that guy was not her boyfriend and that she was only with him because he told her that he would kill her if she did not do it. Obviously this is a lie only to save her skin, something that in the end was not enough because Soit ends up devouring her. Going now to the elves, Yuri tells her sister that she has to do her best. This is because when she remembers A in bed, she knows that she does not want them to always be protecting her. That is why she shouts that she also wants to help Ain. Right then she starts to see a disaster, since people start running away while shouting that there is a monster loose. Then, on seeing a wounded child, Yuri immediately heals him, asking him to keep escaping, because she will go when she heals the others. Thus the child thanks her and leaves, and while all this is happening, Chitna tells Soit that he has already played enough with the weaklings and that he should rather go first for the spirits, informing him that if he kills them, the Tazador will not be able to access his power. On hearing this, the creature ends up agreeing. So he quickly positions himself behind Yuri. However, just before he hits her, Pina appears, enclosing her in a barrier and, taking Yuri by the hand, they start to escape. Soit obviously tries to get out of the barrier, but with bare fists he cannot, so Chitna is going to teach him a power contrary to that of the spirits, this being the anti-spiritual arts with which Soit, using his spiritual eye, concentrates his power in his fist and manages to destroy the barrier, continuing then with the chase, where Pina again uses her barrier but now Soit, prepared, destroys it, sending her flying in the process. And when he was already about to finish her off, Yuri steps in, but since she cannot do anything, the creature is holding her and starts squeezing her, telling her that she has to be stupid to give her power to that piece of trash, and right before it kills her, Ain shows up, saving her, together with Ursula and Kurojime. At that moment the protagonist notices how Yor, in spite of the fear, did absolutely everything she could to protect her sister. Because of that, he now only asks them to get inside his eyes. Once they do so, Ken knows he has to finish off the creature, although when he uses his evaluate skill he realizes there is very little information about it, something that to Ursula seems like a concealment ability, yet it is advanced enough to fool a divine spiritual eye. It is also then that they begin the fight where the main guy defends himself using parry. Even so, Soit comes back and continues attacking Ain, so the latter uses a barrier. Still, Soit, using anti-spiritual arts, manages to destroy his defense. Even with that, our protagonist comes out almost unhurt. At the same time Chid, somewhere else, comments that a barrier of such low rank has absolutely nothing to do against his arts, telling the appraiser in his mind that now he is going to die. Right then the creature asks Ain what is wrong with him and, calling him picked up trash, it asks him if that is all. Hearing that voice, the main character also recognizes him as Soit, something the monster confirms, telling him that a spirit blessed him and he evolved just like he did. On hearing those words, the protagonist gets distracted, and taking advantage of the situation the monster hits him and then with its claws tears a house to pieces. Even so, he manages to dodge and, using super acceleration, he avoids more blows, which confuses Ursula, who asks him why he is hesitating, since if they do not kill him he will kill them, and answers that even if he has that form he is still Soit. He dodges another attack, both of them standing on the rooftops, where the creature asks him why he does not take advantage of that power for himself like he did, showing him the corpse of the one who mocked him and of the one who betrayed him. There he tells the protagonist that he understands him because they are the same, throwing in his face that surely deep down he is wishing to take revenge for everything that was done to him. The prot denies it, but right behind him his own corpse appears, which asks him whether he has never thought about it, reminding him that everybody made fun of him because of his class, and together with Soy they start convincing him that they are the same, shouting that even if he is a little stronger he is still human trash. That is when Yuri silences him, shouting that it is not like that because since she knows him she knows he is very good and very strong. At that point the elf mother also steps in, admitting that he has become very strong. And she is not only talking about his abilities because his heart has grown too, asking him if he has not been using his power to help those who need it. Above all she reminds him that he has not hurt the weak the way Soy did. because instead he told Yuri that he would make it up to her for everything she had done for him. In conclusion, she yells that she did not give him that bravery and kindness, but that it is something he already had inside. Even so, there his corpse tells him not to let himself be deceived, because it knows him far more than anyone. And to silence that voice, Yuri comes in, telling him that if she is here today and has been able to see her family again, it is thanks to meeting him. With a smile, she tells him that thanks to him, she has also been able to change her destiny. All of this makes Ein burst into tears, and he asks them if he truly is stronger, something they obviously confirm. That is more than enough for him to know that both his corpse and Soy are very wrong, realizing that throughout his whole life he has been undervaluing himself. Yet in spite of everything, both Yuri and Ursula keep trusting him, so precisely because of that he wants to answer their trust. That is how, while he emits a great energy, he shouts that he will become the Ellen they have always believed in. On seeing all that magic power, Ursula comments that it seems he has finally become a guardian as he deserves, although yes, it surely took him a lot. She adds that now that he recognizes his own strength, he will be able to use 100% of the power of the spirits. And now he proves it, since he manages to foresee Soyd's movements and with a single blow sends him flying. Walking slowly toward him, he looks at him with a disappointed face, which obviously annoys Soyd, and he tries to hit him, but Ein Rene cannot be destroyed even with his anti-spiritual arts, thus showing the great power our protagonist now has. Ursula mentions that it seems his blessing was only 10%, and obviously now he is no match for the new Ein. Hearing this, Soy starts shouting at the spirit to give him more power, something that Chid does not obey. Even so, despite all that power, our protagonist takes his sword and apparently manages to destroy him. Yet now we see how the protagonist extends his hand to him, which annoys Soyd a bit, asking him why he always tries to help him. Enkidu answers, asking him if he needs any reason to help someone. He adds that this does not matter even if he is weak. And if he himself was able to change, he knows that Soy will also be able to change, telling him that he could start by taking the hand he has in front of him. And so, in tears, he does so. Now we see how the adventurer has returned to being human. Even so, they still have to take him away, and there the protagonist thinks about which spirit it is that gave that power to Soy. That same night, we see Echidna picking up the remains of the eye, and at that very moment she manages to rebuild it, feeling somewhat satisfied because she was able to gather combat information about Ein. Brend comments that their plan is starting well, although the only thing that did not go as expected is that Soy stayed alive. Even so, she sealed his demon memories, so it will be impossible for them to find out about this. Also, remembering Ein's last attack, she points out that putting Yuri's purifying power on his sword was quite smart, and as she is leaving she asks Miktora to wait, because she swears she will bring him back. Now on a new day we see our protagonist having a cup of tea when out of nowhere Yuri asks him for a favor, which is if he could give her a kiss. Obviously this makes Ein more than nervous, telling the elf that those jokes are not to be made. Yet Yuri yells that it is not a joke, because it is a ritual that is celebrated between spirits and their guardians. Then Ursula also appears, saying that as much as she hates the idea, they have no other choice, telling him that until now the Prat has been Yuri's guardian in training. For that reason the path that connects him to the elf is unstable, which has forced Yuri to carry the responsibility of preventing our protagonist from getting drunk on magic. Whether because he gets too little power or too much, something for which Ein himself, approaching the elf, apologizes for having been a burden, and she, a little blushed, asks him not to worry. But going back to the main topic, Ursula tells the protagonist that now that he awakened as a guardian, a true path opened between him and Yuri. Therefore they have to perform the ritual to strengthen that path. On hearing this, Ein thinks that if it is a forced kiss, maybe it is like when a knight swears loyalty. So he thinks about accepting, but then the other elves show up, who only ask him to forget about them and to give her a good big kiss. This makes the protagonist even more nervous, asking if they want him to do it with people watching. So Ursula asks Pina and Kurajime to give Einelsepta some space. Even so, her daughter asks Ursula if she does not mind that a stranger kisses her daughter, to which the elf mother answers that he is not a stranger, but still that it is only a kiss, and with a threatening look she makes it clear that if he does anything more she will kill him. So she leaves, and once they are alone the pair does not know how to start. But Yuri makes it more awkward by telling him that it will be her first time. So she hopes it will not hurt, showing him her lips. Seeing this, the protagonist does not know what to do, because he thought he was only going to kiss her hand. Even so, in spite of the nerves, he tries to fool himself saying that it is only a ritual and since it is necessary, he has no other choice. But when he was getting closer, the very clumsy guy slips and ends up giving her a kiss on the forehead, which was enough to level up. At the same time, Yuri, very excited, shouts that she is so happy she could go to heaven. In another panel we see a certain Baron Falco welcoming Ikna, asking her what brings her here, to which she answers that she brings a mandate from the Demon King, who orders her to kill this young man, showing him a hologram of the protagonist. Even if it is an order from his lord, the bird asks why he should deal with a pathetic ape. In response, China tells him that that ape was strong enough to defeat the Vegemite all by himself. That still does not impress Falco, since ancient dragons are only a little smarter than other monsters, adding that compared to them, demons are nothing more than mere insects. Then Chisna gets closer, highlighting his admirable confidence, and saying she loves strong people. That is exactly why she says the Demon King and she can only trust him. She says all of this while caressing him, which fascinates him. So Falco, very excited, takes the job, telling her that he will take care of it. On top of that, he will defeat him very easily. Once he says this, he uses the mandate to open a portal to the human world and goes at full speed using his Gale skill with which he can fly at great speed, adding that not even other demons of the nobility reach such quickness. And after a while he finally appears in front of the protagonist, to whom he introduces himself as the Baron of the 5 ranks of demon nobility, the great Falco of the Gale. Even so, Ainedo stops him, asking him to lower his voice because the others are sleeping. Faced with such insolence, the bird decides he will kill him right away, but at a speed much faster than his, the protagonist sends him flying with a slap. And that is not all, because getting closer to the bird, the protagonist asks him if he said he was a baron. Since as he knows, it is the lowest rank of nobility, and using Helix Bullet he ends up finishing Falco. Obviously after this he uses his Evaluate skill, thus getting the Gale skill. But when he thinks about it, he wonders why he came, since he noticed he came to kill only him and not Yuri and the others. That is why he decides to wake up the other elves. On seeing the bird lying on the ground, Pina tells him that it seems he became stronger now that he is a real guardian. She even mentions that if he can fight without Ursula's help, maybe he is already stronger than her. Obviously the elf mother will not allow that, and putting him in a hold she shouts that she is much stronger. Once back at the castle they meet Claudia, who points out to the protagonist that it is strange to see him around the castle, to which he answers that he wanted to go to the Forbidden Library, telling us that that place contains books that only the royal family can access and that thanks to the silver clock the king gave him, he can now enter places where he could not before. And once in front of the library entrance Claudia apologizes, because according to the rules only those whom the king and the librarian say so can enter, and because of that she can only accompany him this far. The protagonist asks her not to worry and even thanks her, wondering now how he gets the librarian's permission, and Claudia answers that he will know when he crosses the door. So Ein touches the door, noticing how it opens, and when he decides to enter he realizes he has the permission. However, when he asks Yuri to come in, she runs into a barrier, which Ursula immediately also notices. She also adds that they cut the link between the ball and Yuri, saying that it seems that barrier rejects those who are not human. Seeing this, Ein knows they cannot lower their guard. Having no other option, he tells the elves that for the moment he will go alone. After a while he finally enters the library, and he also hears something falling, and seeing that it is a girl he saves her at the exact moment, asking her if she is all right, and the girl, getting up from his arms, thanks him while the protagonist notices that her ears are colored, with which he knows she blushed. Moving on, she introduces herself with the name A. In the same way the elf introduces herself with the name Alice, so Ein reminds her that he saw her falling, asking her what happened. She only answers that she was reading and suddenly she was falling. This leaves Ein speechless, wondering if reading absorbs her that much. Then the purple-haired girl sends a book to its place, because as the librarian she knows where all books go. That seems incredible to the protagonist, so right there out of nowhere he thanks her, and the girl asks him why. The main guy answers that it is because she gave him permission to come in. Alice asks him why he has come, and Ein tells her that he came to research secret dungeons. The purple-haired girl asks, "And what will you do after?" The protagonist, being honest, tells her he wants to help a person important to him meet her family again. So the librarian hands him a book in which he will find information about secret dungeons, something that makes Ein very happy, and he thanks her, taking the chance to read it right away. Yet the purple-haired girl asks him, "How is Yuri?" This surprises the protagonist, who asks her how she knows her name. The librarian tells him that she knows he has Yuri's spiritual core in his left eye, revealing that she knows it because she is also a spirit of the world tree, that is to say, one of Yuri's sisters. After that we see the protagonist coming back from a dungeon, and even though it was in the book Alice gave him, in the end it was not a secret dungeon, to which Yuri answers that she does not think her sister would have given him the wrong book by mistake, something Pina also confirms, pointing out in that case, Ein decides that he will return to the library and ask her directly, although before that he tells the two sisters that he is very sorry that they could not see him, yet he adds that something has already come to his mind, to which Yuri answers that she trusts him. At that moment we see how Alice was spying on Yuri, and her mother appears there, who asks her if she is spying on the girl with the distant eye again and also asks her why she did not give her a book that talked about this secret dungeon, questioning her if perhaps she does not want to see Yuri in company. Alice answers her that the outside world scares her and that she does not have strength to fight, so she can only watch through the eye. Besides, since she knows it, the outside world is full of humans, revealing to Yalis that she hates them because they were the ones who killed her sister Chidna. On hearing this, her mother asks her if she thinks that Ein and the others are like that, or if it is that she still does not fully trust him. That is how we see that after the Prota discovered that Alice was a spirit of the world tree, he ended up meeting the guardian and mother of this one, who has as her name Kahane. Thus the Prota, very formal, introduces himself to her, adding that he is delighted to meet her, to which the redhead tells him that it had been a long time since she had seen her daughter so happy, and that is precisely why she thanks him. Alo K, turning to look at Alice, wonders if she is happy. Even so, moving on from the topic, he tells her that Yuri Pina are waiting outside. Yet Yakujen informs him that that will be impossible because this place does not exist inside the king's castle, since it is actually a separate secret dungeon, with the door that connects the dungeon and the castle allowing their communication. She also explains that they make sure that only those whom Alice and the king want may pass through it, adding that in exchange for the magic power of the tree to protect this place they are allowed to stay here and read as much as they want. But if in that case Alice or Yuri pass through the door, a contract that has lasted many years would be broken. She tells him that if he wants Alice to see the others without breaking the contract, he will have to find the location of the dungeon and come here directly. At that, Ein asks her what happens if instead of that he takes Alice out of the dungeon. The mother answers him that that will be complicated, because as he knows her daughter is so fragile that she would not last long. Besides, she adds that it would make no sense if Alice does not want to leave by her own will. That is how the Prota, standing close to Alicia, asks her if she wants to see Yuri, Pina and the others again. Yet she does not answer. So Ein apologizes since he understands that of course she wants to see them, but he also knows that she is afraid and that is something he understands. He tells her that he felt the same, but thanks to Yuri, Ursula and the others he was able to gather courage, telling her that if she decides to take the step he will support her in everything he can. Besides, he does not mind going slowly, promising her that he will take her safe and sound to the others, asking her if she trusts him and will come with him. Although right there he admits that it is also hard to trust someone so quickly, yet even so he asks her not to worry, because he will find the location of the Forbidden Library. So for that very reason he will visit all the secret dungeons in the book. Thus this one leaves, telling her that he will see her tomorrow, to which Alice, a little embarrassed and blushing, tells him the same. Then we see how her mother is combing her, asking her if perhaps she likes that boy, and she knows this because what she felt could be seen on her face. There Alice tells us in her mind that she has read about that in many books, because when she sees him her heart throbs, her chest hurts from joy, and the world that was in black and white is starting to fill with color. At that moment her mother asks her why she does not cheer up and trust A, telling her not to worry, since if something happens she can come back, adding, like a very good mother, that whatever happens, she will always be by her side. All these words make both of them cry. Just then Ayn appears, who is returned because of a doubt, while the purple-haired girl stands up and her mother encourages her to take the first step, which Alice in the end accepts, telling Ayn that she trusts him, also shouting to him that she wants him to take her to the outside world. This makes Inato happy and he lifts her in his arms. Thus, with a great leap, he thanks her for trusting him, and for that very reason they will go out together to the outside. After that, Aken gives him Alice's spiritual core, with which she will be able to leave this place. Besides, since she cannot use teleportation magic, she asks her clone to take care of it. That is how the mission to see the family again begins, and although the plan was to get out of here quickly, he had underestimated how weak Alice was, because as we see she has already gotten tired. For that very reason Inato carries her, while on the way he destroys and finishes off several monsters, and they even have time so that Alice can drink a little tea. After all of this, we see how the Prota is facing the boss of the dungeon, where the Prota, with that sword, throws it at his enemy, making it so that when this one draws his sword he pulls the sword that the Prota threw, taking advantage of the situation to come close and use flashing lightning, thus finishing off the boss of the dungeon. Obviously he uses Evaluate, obtaining the skill Expansive Slash and Unsheathing Strike. Right there Alice comes close to him, caressing his cheek, telling him, and her mother there says that surely she is worried that he did not get hurt, to which the Prota, taking her hand, thanks her for having worried about him. This obviously makes Alice blush, while Jane points out that he does not realize anything. Advancing a little more, they are already about to leave the dungeon, where Ito asks Alice and Kajani if they are ready, although right then the Prota notices that Alice does not look so happy. Her mother concludes that she is sad because when they go out the Prota will not be able to carry her in his arms, to which he has no problem, telling the purple-haired girl that if she asks him he will do it gladly, to which Alice asks him if he says it seriously. And of course Ayn confirms it for her. Seeing this, Cajun shouts that her daughter is in a romantic comedy, even though her girl always had a bitter face, which excites her mother even more. Obviously, both the Prota and the girl were listening to her, so Alice, using her staff, starts spinning it around. After a while, at last the sisters are reunited. However, Alice rejects physical contact with her sister, telling her that she is suffocating her, while the other mothers also reunite, noticing there how Ursula is very nervous in front of Kajn, making it very clear how the hierarchy works. Then Yuri hugs the Prota, thanking him for finding her sister, which apparently makes Alice jealous. Pina notices this, and for that very reason she gives Ayn a hug, pointing out that she loves him very much. At the same time she lifts Ayn's right arm free, and even though Yuri wanted to hug him, Alice ends up beating her to it. Pina takes advantage of this to tease her, asking her if perhaps she does not want Yuri or her to monopolize him. On hearing this, Ayn asks her not to tease her. Seeing this, the dangerous one knows that he is defending her, so she asks him if perhaps he likes Alice, which makes both the daughters and the mothers ask him if he really likes her. Yet the protagonist only wonders what is going on. Now we see how all the elves ask our protagonist if he likes Alice, causing him to feel totally trapped, wondering how he ended up like this. Because since he could not endure more questions, he escaped here, but for some reason everyone followed him and they keep asking him like that. Inato does not answer and only wants to leave, but there Yuri stops him, telling him not to run away, and there Pina pulls him so that he comes back. Then Ursula intervenes, telling them that they have to stop making so much fuss over what Ayn feels, to which the elves obey. On hearing this, our protagonist calms down, thinking that he is already saved, although he has another problem, which is that he does not even know where to look. Worse than that, Pina is sitting on him. Right then, when Pina sees him, she asks him why he is so red and if it will not be that her little body is causing him things. On hearing this, Yuri is relieved, since she was worried that he had his face red because he was sick, which Pina points out is admirable that Yuri overlooks so much. Then Kuragujime throws more waters on the hot stones, making there be more heat in the sauna. The protagonist cannot stand this and decides to leave, although at that moment Alice, overheated, leans on him. Seeing that she is not well, he suggests that she should go out, to which Alice answers that she is fine, because she wants to stay, besides that from now on and forever she wants to be with him. But then her sisters come in, who very happily shout that that means they will keep having adventures together, making Ito understand that since she reunited with her family, it is normal that she wants to be with her. There a hand mentions to Alice that she wants the boy did not fully understand that great declaration. Changing the subject, the Proto asks Ursula if she could process Alice's spiritual core, something that she confirms. Then Alice's mother comes close, telling him that in that case she will need this, thus showing her Philosopher's Stone, because since she is Alice's mother she will help her, adding that she will not be able to teleport, but surely her powers will be useful to them. That is how they begin. Although when Ollie comes close, she trips and by accident pulls down Ein's pants, so that all of them realize that he is very well endowed. After that, when the Proto was thinking what to do, Megan appears hugging him, pointing out to him that he has become stronger. Something that Hasper agrees with, commenting out loud that he can come to her arms when he needs her to pamper him, and she also hugs him. Aloyne asks what is going on here. Thus, putting on serious faces, they tell him that the king sent a request through the guild asking him if he knows anything about the demons. This makes him remember Falco, since he presented himself as a baron of the 5 ranks of demonic nobility. So because of this he answers them that yes. Thus Megan tells him that centuries ago the heroes created a dimensional wall and expelled the demons. Yet lately in Rishik more and more demons keep appearing. Therefore their mission consists in eliminating the demons that are wandering around there, and they do this mostly because the adventurers of the area cannot take care of it. On hearing this, the protagonist tells the girls that he wants to help. Ursula speaks out, telling him that the goal they have is in another direction, so she asks him if he will help some third parties. Ein, standing up, asks her if he was not a third party when Yuri and she helped him, adding that he knows the fear and the despair of facing an overwhelming enemy. That is why he would like to help the same way that Yuri and Ursula did for him. At this the other elves appear who agree with Ein. With no other option, Ursula answers that if Yuri agrees, she cannot refuse. Already decided, the Proto accepts the mission and thus, putting on the cloak, he tells them that he will defeat the demons of Rishik. Now, moving through a forest, we see a lot of people where a little girl tells her father that she is hungry. He answers her that they are on their way to a place where she will be able to eat all that she wants. This fascinates the little one, thinking that surely it is like the heaven where her mother is. Faced with such innocence, her parents only confirm it for her. At the moment they arrive at the place the ground trembles, so the people know that Lord Hydra is approaching, and for that reason they lower their heads to the ground. The girl asks her father what Hydra is, to which he answers that it is a serpent god that protects the village. That is how it manifests itself. One of the villagers comments that it is the moment of the sacrifice, so the Lord takes his daughter, saying that this god came to take her to heaven, adding that he cannot go with her, but that he will go soon, so he asks her to wait for him with her mother. The little girl, taking her father's hand, tells him that she knows that when her mother went to heaven he did not stop crying. Therefore, through tears, she asks him not to cry when she goes to heaven, because she will not be here to wipe away his tears. That is how the girl goes with Hydra, but this one, with his multiple heads, warns that it is already too late, although the girl looks appetizing. The father goes in, preventing the sacrifice, something that angers the other villagers, since it was something they had already decided. Since that is the case, the man offers himself instead of his daughter, but Hydra answers that he does not like men, reminding them of the deal they had, which consisted in that he would not destroy the village in exchange for a woman per month, but since they broke the deal, he will condemn them to death. That is how he throws poison on everyone. And not satisfied, he was about to eat the girl, but right then our protagonist appears, saving her. On seeing such an aura, the little one thinks that he is a god. At the same time, Ursula tells him that it is Hydra, an ancestral dragon of SS rank. It has the ability to generate poison and medicine, and it also hides its skin under a layer of deadly toxins. Knowing this, our Proto asks Yuri to heal the villagers. She obeys, and when she does, Ayn is astonished at how much Yuri's healing improved. On leveling up her eye, Hydra, confident, comments that a mere human will not change things. As he sees how he draws his sword, he keeps thinking that it is useless against his poison, but he is silenced by Ayn, who cuts him into several parts. Seeing this, one of the villagers finally recognizes him. He tells them that in the capital he is known as Ayn the Dragon Slayer. Ursula, knowing that our protagonist imbued the sword with Yuri's purification, points out to him that it is not bad at all. Ayn thanks her for that, yet he realizes that Ursula praised him, which leaves him perplexed. Going back to the villagers, they thank him for what he did. Although when he mentions that he would like to meet the Lord of the Lands, their faces change, telling him that although they are grateful to him, perhaps it would have been better that way. And just like that they go away. The girl, however, comes back to Ayn, whom, calling him God, thanks him for what he did. The Prota, bending down, clarifies to her that he is not a god, but that he wants to protect the smiles on their faces, so not even a god will defeat him. The little girl obeys and steps away. Now that he is alone, Aincito says that he will have to see the Lord. Once they arrive at the place, they notice how the site has an artificial elegance. Even so, the Prota tells them to return to his eye. Going into the castle, Aincito introduces himself, adding that the guild sent him. That is when a boy comes down, saying that it is an honor to finally meet the famous Dragon Slayer, introducing himself right there as Naigan Bonishik at last. After that, the guy invites our protagonist to tea and to a dessert. However, when he tastes it, he realizes it is super salty. Even so, he tells him it is tasty. But then Naigan also tastes it, notices it is salty, and therefore apologizes, saying that he always puts his foot in it. Changing the subject, the Prota asks him to tell him more about the demons that have appeared here today. Naigan tells him that he has not seen them in these lands, adding that since they border Abysswood, maybe they spread rumors like that because in that place there really are monsters, asking him to please return and say that in his lands there is no problem at all. Even so, the Prota asks to take a look. This is because he notices how the people are worried, adding also that on his way here he defeated Hydra. This shocks Naigan a lot and also scares him, shouting that when Hydra was in the village no monster came close. Because of this he yells that they had planned to sacrifice a girl, yet for him sacrificing one life saves many more, asking him if he plans to protect these people forever. But since he is the Lord he knows he must protect the lands his father left him, doing whatever it takes for that. Having said that, he leaves just like that, and when he goes out the Prota stays thinking about what the guy said. It is then that Yuri calms him, telling him that he should keep following the path that is right, because that is what matters the most. Back with Naigan, he asks his mirror in great desperation what he should do, and the curious thing is that he calls it Shadow. This one answers that they can easily replace Hydra, but the problem is Ayn, convincing him to kill him, since it is not possible for a human to defeat a double S-rank dragon. Therefore he tells him that he must be a demon. At first Naigan hesitates, but Shadow manipulates him, telling him that he trusts him because he has never deceived him before. This finally convinces Naigan, who happily accepts killing Ayn. However, when he leaves, Shadow points out how easy it is to control humans who are weak of will, and also that very soon Shadow, the demon Viscount, will possess Naigan's body very soon. Back with the protagonist, they see how destroyed the wall is. What is strangest is that when they ask the people about the Lord, they refuse to answer or even run away from the question. As he is walking, he bumps into a man he was going to ask the same thing, but this one, very discouraged, says that surely he will abandon them just like the soldiers and the rest, showing them the field, because when Hydra died the monsters destroyed it, so he does not know if they will die first of hunger or by monsters around them. The Prota then uses his magic to make the field grow again, and on top of that he raises another wall, telling him that if they need anything they should ask him, because instead of giving up they should fight to live there. In that moment he bows, asking them to let him help. This makes the villager laugh, because it reminds him of the words of the former lord, who was very brave and fun. But since his son took the position, everything went to the void. That one was even the one who made the deal with Hydra, besides lowering the defenses and raising the taxes to the highest. But thanks to the Prota, he wants to have hope again, so very happily he promises him that he will not regret it. Right there the Prota sees in the distance a horde of monsters, so decided, he does not care if they are thousands. He will not allow them to lay a finger on the village. Thus Ein climbs on top of the wall, noticing that there are too many, realizing that if they attack in a pack the wall will not hold them. At that moment Yuri appears, very worried, asking him what they will do. At the same time, when the villagers see the monsters, they think that surely this will be their end. This makes the Prota remember when the little girl shouted to him that she was very happy that he had saved them, and also when he spoke with that man who told him that he believed in him and gave him some hope. With that, he becomes serious and asks Yuri to get into his eye. She does so, and then the Prota asks the villagers to step away from that place. So with a jump he rises, keeping in mind that he promised he would protect her smile, not caring that they face thousands, because he will not allow them to touch the village, and he launches a helix bullet. However, even though it hits, there are still far too many. What is worse is that the creatures also leap up, forcing the Prota to seek support, and they throw themselves at him. He uses super evaluation and defends himself using flashing lightning and wind blade. Then, lifting himself with the help of one creature, he uses gravity well, and inside it he unleashes a bunch of helix bullets. Even so, there are still more, so he uses back attack and double mirage, with which he finishes them using steel threads, which leaves the whole village astonished because he has just defeated a huge number all by himself. That, in the mind of the Prota, will be before them. Even so, Ein says that he cannot even think of falling without having defeated them all. So he imbues steel saw and then expansive slash. Ursula admits that his range is expanding, but that he will be in danger if he forces his powers more. So she shouts that his body will not endure. Right then the creatures pounce on him. Even so, the Prota shouts that he cannot run away and uses impact strike, with which he cuts in half the group of creatures. Yuri, surprised, seems to say that he really finished them all. The Prota at this smiles, but he falls to the ground, and lying there he is happy that he was able to protect them. Seeing this, the elf, worried, asks him not to talk, because she will heal him. While she is doing this, Ursula appears, noting in her mind that Ein is incredible, since not even the healing could keep up with the blows, but even so he eliminated all the monsters by himself. The Prota, now healed, wakes up and thanks Yuri, but then the little girl appears, calling the Prota god and hugging him. In the same way the other villagers thank him too. However, the villager from the previous chapter asks if they will really be able to go on like this. He asks it because Ein almost died protecting the village even though he barely knows them, asking them to question what they have done, pointing out that they have only complained about the situation while they waited for a certain death. The villagers, hearing this, do not know what to answer, because they fear what the Lord might do. The villager, furious, reminds them that they only make excuses, asking them if they did not feel anything when they saw Ein fight, shouting that he saved his life and also his dignity. This last part motivates the villagers, who, tired of this, they decide to fight. Seeing this, Yuri asks him to look at how thanks to him the villagers want to live again. This obviously makes him happy, and Yuri feels the same. Ein adds that now he feels a little closer to her, because when they met she also helped him, but he also admits that she gave him much more, such as dignity, confidence, courage, and other feelings. That is why he is glad to have been able to return some of that, because that brings him a little closer to her, wanting to see everything she sees, but at her side. Right then the gossiping villagers come closer, saying how beautiful youth is. This makes the lovebirds very nervous. One of the ladies asks them to leave them alone, and another, now decided, says that he will not let anyone boss them around. But right then the very person appears, asking what he has said about him. The villagers get scared, but one of them tells the boy that no one will obey him, which the others support, throwing in his face that Ein was the one who saved. Nigan tells them that they are being deceived, because Ein is a demon. Since a plain and ordinary human being cannot defeat Hydra and a horde of monsters, he deduces that he came to take over Rishik, but he tells them not to worry, because as lord of these lands he will protect them as he has until now. Hearing all this, the village does not believe him, and even if he were a demon, they make it clear that he would be 100 times better than what they have had until now. Nigan does not understand this because in his mind what he was doing was to protect these lands. However, the man comes closer to Nigan, asking him if those lands he wanted to protect included them. Thus they make it clear that they do not need a lord who is willing to sacrifice his people, shouting that they need one who fights for them like his father. Nigan, on hearing this, remembers his father, and suddenly his head hurts and, falling to his knees, he takes out his necklace, asking Shadow what he should do. Ein quickly evaluates the necklace, but the details do not appear, recognizing that it is a concealment ability just like with Soid. It is then that Shadow, with a smile, says that it is time to move to action, and he emits a miasma with which he communicates with Nigan, telling him that he must keep doing what he says, which is to kill them all, stressing that whoever does not obey him will be of no use, like they did with his father. Nigan thinks he understands because his father died being sick. This amuses Shadow, who asks him if he still believes that, and he decides to tell him the truth. With that said, we see Nigan's past, when since he was little he admired his father for being so good with people even though he was the Lord, besides not being arrogant or weak, and on top of that everyone loved him, so he knew that in the future he wanted to be as good a Lord as him, but as he wanted to help he trips. Nigan, embarrassed, says that he is clumsy and also coughs. The villagers, worried, ask him if he is sick again. The little one denies it because his fever has already gone down. Then his father asks him to go play with his friends. Nigan wanted to help, but his father tells him that the duty of a child is to play, so he wants him to have fun with his friends. The boy, with no other option, agrees. So, as he was walking, he saw some children who were playing. Because of that, he goes over and asks them if he could play with them. But one of them, recognizing him as the Lord's son, says that his mother told him not to play with him because he would infect him. Hearing this, all of them run away from him, leaving poor Nigan alone, who says that he is not sick, only that his body is weak and that this does not spread. The worst does not end there, because while he was walking crying through an alley, he manages to hear some guys talking about how Nigan does not look like his father, adding that he is an abandoned child from Abysswood. Hearing this, Nigan, hurt, runs away, but he trips while running, and getting up with tears he now knows that he is not his father's son, understanding why he is clumsy and weak, and what hurts him the most is that he will never be like him. But right then a voice is heard that answers him that nothing happens if he is not like him, and it is his reflection who tells him to just be himself and do what he wants. A surprised Nigan asks who he is, and his reflection introduces himself as Shadow, his imaginary friend, although he adds that it must be a secret, because he will disappear if someone discovers him, something the little one agrees to keep, now very happy because it is the first time he makes a friend, so he did everything with his new friend Shadow. But one day Nigan found his father very exhausted and asked him if he was all right, which he confirms, being sure that some monster's miasma got to him. Already in his room, Nigan tells Shadow that he is very worried about his father. His reflection takes advantage of this and advises him that he can use some medicinal herbs that cure fatigue, asking him to check the plant guide. The little one obeys and, with Shadow's help, finds the information of a poison-curing herb, which details that it cures fatigue. With this, Nigan is happy and thanks Shadow, who answers that it is nothing because that is what friends are for. Once the tea is prepared, he gives it to his father, telling him that it will make him feel better. When he drinks it very happy, he tells his son that it works because he feels great, and he even tells him that he is very kind, hoping that he will never lose that kindness because he is sure that in the future he will be a great lord. However, after that his illness kept getting worse day by day. That is why he prepared an infusion with the herb and gave it to him daily. But on a fateful day he found his father without life. That day, very sad, he cried in front of Shadow, to whom he asked what he was going to do now, since he was not ready to be the Lord of Rishik. His reflection agrees with this, but offers to give his support as a friend, saying that he will supply what he lacks and tell him everything he needs to know. This makes Nigan feel better, because he knows that Shadow will be by his side, happy that he is there with him, something that Shadow confirms, adding that that is what friends are for. So we return to their current conversation where Shadow tells Nigan, "You killed your father." At the same time, outside, the Proto tries to make the boy react, but although he can hear his voice, he does not pay attention, because inside he cannot believe what Shadow is telling him. Shadow then reveals that the medicinal herb he was giving him was actually a poisonous herb. Nigan denies this because in the guide it said that it was effective against fatigue. This amuses his reflection because that was his doing, changing the information in the guide. He also points out that the part about its effectiveness against fatigue was not a lie, because a dead man cannot be tired. And finally he asks him if he remembers when he told him Ein was a demon, telling him that that was a lie because, pointing at himself, he reveals that he is the demon. And although his original plan was to control Nigan's father and create a route to send humans to the demon realm, he could not do it because that man never lowered his guard. He only had to mention being friends for him to come running to be useful, thanking him in passing, because thanks to him he was able to send many humans to the demonic realm, pointing out at the end that his father and he make him feel a great pity, thinking that after all, even if they did not share the same blood, the two of them were just as pathetic. And so the miserable one yells at him that his weak heart and his frail body were no good whatsoever to be a lord, which makes Nigan lose control. And so the demon takes advantage of this to take control of his body. The Proto notes this and knows that it is not Nigan, so he asks him who he is. In this way, he introduces himself as Shadow the Sorcerer, a viscount of the 5 ranks of nobility, also delighted to at last meet the famed hero. It is there that can ask Shadow where Nigan is, to which he answers that he has him right here in front, pointing toward his heart, stressing that he is very weak since keeping his body was a piece of cake because he only had to manipulate what he felt. This angers the Proto very much. Even so, the demon makes it clear that Nigan ended up like this because of him. Because until now he had only managed to use Nigan to weaken the defenses and thus send humans to the demonic realm. But Ein arrived and ruined his plans, and with that he did not leave him any other choice, so now, even if it is a nuisance to him, he will have to kill him, but he does tell him not to think that he is like the empty-headed Falco, since he, on the other hand, does know the weakness of humans. Shouting at him that if he kills him, he will also kill his vessel Nigan. Thus the fight begins. The Proto quickly dodges the tentacles and then traps Shadow in a barrier. Nevertheless, using anti-spiritual arts he manages to break free and tells him that demons can use anti-spiritual arts, so those techniques are useless. Having added this, he summons more creatures. With no more options, the Proto approaches using super acceleration and finishes off the monsters and rebuilds the fortress while at the same time he asks the villagers to get away. At that moment Shadow approaches and summons more creatures while destroying Ein's barrier. Faced with this, the Proto uses double mirage with which now he can indeed defend each villager, although there is a monster that grabs one villager. Ein sees this and thinks about helping. However, Shadow takes advantage of the distraction and lands such a blow on him, asking him to pay attention to him too, since he feels ignored. And so he keeps hitting him while shouting that being a hero involves a lot of work. It is there that the Proto thinks about using stop, but he remembers Nigan. This stops him. So instead of that, he uses unmovable fortress. Ursula shouts to him that with that skill, he will not be able to move and staying on the defensive will not change anything. Ado knows it, but even so he wants to look for a solution to save Nigan. It is there that Shadow asks him to counterattack, shouting also that killing Nigan is the only way he can win. But surely not even the grand hero could do that, making it clear to him that this is the matter. If he sacrifices Nigan and kills him, he could save all those people. Obviously Ein refuses this, since as we know sacrificing one person to save 100 is something illogical for the Proto, something he will never do. With these shouts he yells to Nigan that he knows he is in there. This makes Shadow laugh, who keeps attacking him, telling him that he has sealed his heart and that is why it is useless for him to shout. Despite the blows, Ein does not intend to abandon Nigan and he slowly approaches Shadow. This worries the elf girls, who know that at this rate the damage will be irreparable. Even so, when he is in front of the demon he grabs him by the shirt, and he yells at him that he wants to help Nigan and all the villagers. That is how with a headbutt he yells that that is why he is here. That blow was so strong that it knocked Shadow unconscious. Inside him we see Nigan, who thinks that if he disappears everyone will be better, since many people because of him have been hurt. But then he hears Ein's voice calling him, shouting to him not to look the other way, making him remember that he told him about protecting Rishik, something he noticed he said from the heart, asking him then why he wanted to protect Rishik. Nigan in the shadows thinks that it was because he wanted to be like his father. But when he thinks it over, what he really wanted was to see people smile, remembering at the same time how his father hoped he would not lose that kindness. Because he knew he would be a great lord. This makes the boy shed tears, because those times and that place were very precious. Back in reality, we see how a villager finishes off one of the creatures, asking his companions to aim at the eyes. He also tells them that the demon shadow is controlling Nigan, so that is why they must save him. Some villagers question this because of him they are like this. Even so, the villager knows that they cannot blame him and then run away, reminding them that they already promised to fight. This convinces the village, who now are indeed ready to fight inside Shadow. Nigan knows that what he did has no forgiveness, since he acted according to his interests without realizing what Shadow was really plotting. Despite all this, he also knows that he must face the truth in order to move forward. So standing up he walks toward a light in front of him to assume his obligations as Lord of Rishik. Outside the darkness, Shadow finally wakes up and moving away he tells him that resisting is useless, because in the end he will not be able to kill Nigan. Although when he lunges to attack he stops for a moment, noticing that this is Nigan's doing. Therefore he shouts to him that he had better stop resisting, since he will never get out of him no matter what he does. Those words calm Nigan, who taking part of the control of his body thanks Ein for everything and then pulls out a dagger and stabs it into his heart. Faced with this, the Prota thinks about doing something, but Ursula stops him, asking him if he is going to let him sacrifice himself in vain. At the same time, inside Nigan, he is having a conversation with Shadow, to whom he reveals that he knew that it was not a common illusion, but he decided to pretend not to notice it because he was his friend. And even though he betrayed him and hurt many people, he still sees him as if he were his friend. Also, even if maybe everything he said was a lie, he knows very well that that time he ended up saving him, stressing to him that for him all the time they spent together was real. Hearing all this, Shadow remembers all the time they spent. And he reveals to him that for him he was only a mere pawn to handle, shouting at him that he is a piece of idiot. And of course Nigan's weakness seems to him a sin, ending it all by telling him that if he plans to die, then let him die alone. That is how he leaves Nigan's body in the form of a small creature, thinking about retreating for the moment and recovering. Although right then he manages to see a girl in the distance, so he thinks better about staying with her. But there he is pierced by a dagger. This is the work of our good Ein. The latter quickly goes to Nigan, convinced that Yuri's healing magic will be effective. Or at least that is what he wants to think, since while he cries he begs him please not to die. But when he notices that it has no effect, he begins to despair. There Yuri comes in, asking him not to give up, since she knows that Nigan will return. So between the two of them they shout to him to come back, because this is his place. Deep inside, Nigan notices a light from which his father's hand comes out. He takes it and that is how Yakarando finally wakes up, surprised that he is still alive. Ein and Yuri hug him very happily, but he, annoyed, pushes them away because he was supposed to die to atone for his sins. The Prota makes it clear to him that he does not intend to sacrifice anyone, and he will not do it even if that person is himself. The other villagers approach and agree with this, adding that he must not think that death will erase his sins. Because although they know that they will never be able to forgive him, they also know that his death will not bring the others back and that they can no longer blame him or forgive him. For that very reason they will not let him go so easily, shouting to him to stop running away. Faced with that, Nigan feels ashamed for having thought that by dying he would atone for his sins, so through tears he thanks them for the second chance. Yuri is glad to see this, but she collapses in front of Ein, who catches her quickly. The elf tells him that maybe she is a little exhausted. This also worries the Prota since she cannot even stand, and while he carries her he also thanks her, because if he had met Shadow first he would have ended up like Nigan. So he lays her down in front of a tree asking if it is really so bad to be weak. And remembering the cases of Soid and Nigan, Ein, angry, knows that he has to make the demons pay for taking advantage of people's weakness. After a while, Alex, while talking with Pina, manages to notice how the rest of Shadow was trying to escape, so Pina traps him in a barrier. The Prota notices this, so he comes closer, taking advantage of the situation to ask him why they want to kill him and what their objective is. Something that the demon does not intend to answer, in which case Ayn was thinking of finishing him off. Obviously, Shadow does not want this and fearfully offers him a deal, which is that he will tell him everything if he promises to let him go free, something Ayn accepts. Ursula questions this, but the Proto asks her to calm down. Thus Shadow begins to talk, telling them that he was given the order to kill Ayn. The latter asks who gave that order. It is there that when Shadow was going to answer, he ends up exploding. Ursula recognizes that they put a spell on him that was activated if he gave secret information, now knowing that they are facing a cunning rival. As dusk falls, the villagers say goodbye to Ayn. The little girl, sad, calling him God, asks him if they will really never see each other again. The Proto denies this, since he knows he will come to visit, promising it with the pinky, which makes her very happy. Their Nigan, embarrassed, asks him a favor, which is that he keeps supporting the village, something the other villagers also beg him for. After that we return to the castle where he learns that they want him to be the new Lord of Rishik. The king adds that it is a title worthy of the feats he accomplished, and that it was also a request from Nigan, who surrendered and says that he would like to help Rishik when his sentence is fulfilled. Their Hasper also comes in, somewhat affectionate with Ayn, because he tells him that now as Lord he will adopt the surname of Rishik, now being Ayn Rishik. The Proto doubts this, since someone of such a low rank who becomes a noble will surely be someone not well regarded. Faced with this, the king also comes in somewhat affectionate, telling him that there were already people who protested about this, but as he expected, he issued the order to kill the demon. Lastly, the other two girls also come in hugging him. Even so, the Proto still doubts about that. Hasper tells him to focus on his own objectives, since he will take care of the bureaucracy in his place. Also, with his new title our Ayn will be able to establish new relations. It may even become easier for him to get information. All this surprises Ayn, who humbly accepts the title. Thus the Dangerous One throws herself at him, since now her marriage with him will be closer to becoming reality, because soon society will accept it, making him wonder if perhaps they wanted to eliminate that obstacle. Obviously their Yuri also intervenes, since she wants to marry Ayn, something that Claudia accepts since the elf is the first wife. This leaves Alice in shock, so Pina tells her that at this rate Alice will be the fourth wife. Endo, as we already know, will be the third. Now we move to an intimidating castle in the shadows where some people were talking about the death of Falco and Shadow, something that seems quite humiliating to them, losing to a monkey, commenting there the squid head that they are the shame of demonic nobility. He even adds that maybe they were not as good as they thought, but out of nowhere he ends up being beheaded by a girl, who, annoyed, points out that there is nothing that bothers her more than seeing two weaklings criticizing others. It is there that the rabbit head recognizes her as the high-ranking noble Loanna. This same one, stepping on the guy she has under her, comments that her toy lately does not move like before, so she thinks about turning the rabbit into her new toy. Obviously this scares the furry one, but the demon quickly changes her mind, since she saw how he sheds a lot of hair and instead orders him only to clean up the trash, referring to the squid's corpse. To which the rabbit obeys instantly, and there the lady or guy mentions that that is why low-ranked scum will always be scum. In another panel we see Echidna, who through a crystal ball watches Ayn, pointing out that she did not expect less from him, because if he had not defeated Shadow so easily they would have had some problems. Then Loanna appears, who points out to Echidna that she is quite obsessed with that one. She confirms it because the boy possesses a special eye. Even so, Loanna only thinks that he has the body of a monkey, and Echidna asks her if she really thinks that just any human could have defeated Falco and Shadow. In that case, the demon thinks that maybe she will test him. It is there that the dark elf asks her a favor, which is to bring her a spirit of the world tree. This because in the same way she will run into Ayn, since his objective is to visit dungeons to find the spirits. Something that Loanna, taking the task sheet, throws it through a portal accepting the favor, adding that she will kill that talented one and bring her a spirit of the world tree. And so, very confident, she points out that in the end she is from the elite. Although just when she was about to go, she notices how her toy does not move, and when she gives him a couple of hits she realizes that he is dead. So she decides to go alone and enter the portal, asking Echidna to get rid of that trash. Once she is alone, Echidna tells him from her ball that even if he is exhausted, he will not be able to rest. And with an excited face she comments that it is because he has to keep becoming stronger. Back with the protasts, Yuri, happily moving her little ears, asks Ein what he would like to eat, to which he deduces that today the elf will cook. Although right then Alice appears, who wants to talk with Ein about something. He accepts, so he asks her to come in. But there Pina also appears. For some reason this delights Yuri, and since it looks fun she shouts that she wants to do it too, and so both elf girls shower the Proto with affection. Even so, Alice refuses that and, making the mood more serious, tells him that she would like to talk about an important matter that affects them. This being that for some time now she has been using her long-distance eye to search for world trees, and since she also wants to see the others she, a bit flushed, says that she was hoping she could help a little. Of course this seems very sweet to the elf girls, while for Einito this makes him happy. Yet she clarifies that she did not find something, but rather that this thing presented itself to her. None of her sisters understands what she means, but even so the Proto still thinks about going right away. Someone else agrees with that. This puzzles everyone when they hear the voice of someone they do not know. It is then that on the bed there appears an elf girl with a somewhat charming appearance. Ein on his part asks her who she is, but the elf, once she sees herself discovered, simply says "Come on my sister," and that is how Yuri jumps to her at once. However, she realizes that it was not her real body, and of course the blue-haired girl bursts out laughing at this. That is how Ein learns that she is the second eldest sister, by the name of course. This surprises the Proto, shouting in his mind that a spirit came on her own, but in the same way he introduces himself to her as a collaborator of Yuri, to which Kors asks him not to be so formal since it is not like they just met, calling him like that, Inkido. The Proto for a moment loses track of what he was doing when he sees those tremendous attributes, but getting past that he points out to her that in reality they really did just meet, something that Cor confirms to him while she starts laughing. Ein, in his mind, tired of these attitudes, comments that the spirits of the world tree are tremendous characters. At that moment Alice intervenes, asking her sister to get to the point. She obeys, informing them that a demon is heading toward a world tree and asking for their help in this, since for now they are resisting, but it is stronger than she thought. Being that the case, the Proto wants to help, asking her where her world tree is. Caresta that it is not about her, but rather they are attacking May's world tree, to which Yuri tells him that she is the smallest of them all. Alice adds that she used her eye to find May's tree, discovering that apparently the whole area is a huge secret dungeon. He asks if May's guardian is trying to drive away the threat. The blue-haired girl denies this, since her guardian died a long time ago. At this, Ursula's voice is heard, reminding him that the world trees are very valuable sources of mana. Therefore people would do anything to keep them. Thus, as she gets her answer, Crush adds that now she also dedicates herself to protecting May, and moreover Alice tells him that, being a greater spirit, she is able to carry out activities independently without having to be tied to her world tree. With this, of course, the Proto groups his ideas, now taking into account that Korch is taking care of May, but the demon that is attacking her is about to reach her. The blue-haired girl confirms this to him, highlighting that she did not expect less from Yuri's fiancé, and so the one in love is very happy with that praise, but the Proto is processing the tremendous word with so much emotional weight that she just mentioned far too slowly, Elencito. It is then that she moves her body, commenting that this is a faithful copy of the original, the one that is now protecting maybe, how much longer will she be able to endure? Alice asks her if she cannot defeat the evil eye. She answers that if she exerts herself she surely can, but she would also wipe out May's tree and all of Rishik. And pointing at her eye, she says that this little one is not easily controlled. At this, the Proto deduces that she uses that mask to seal her evil eye, something that the sister-in-law confirms. With all this said, the Proto knows that the demon is someone dangerous and that he is after a spirit, something he does not intend to allow. So he asks the elf girls if it seems fine to them to go help their sisters. Obviously, they accept without hesitation. Thus Inzito asks Kors to hold out as much as they can, since they will go to the place. Seeing this determination, the blue-haired girl understands why her sisters love him so much, and before leaving she mentions that Al knows where the world tree is, and then, saying goodbye to her beloved sisters, she disappears. Already being in the forest, he wonders if the whole area really is a dungeon. Ursula confirms it to him, adding that it is enchanted with several powerful curses. So if he tries to fly over it, a curse will be activated, so that he will never leave. And even though it might seem that they could get lost, the Proto, thanks to Alice, can use long-distance eye and evaluate in order to know the location of the tree. Pina with this is more relieved, and also because the Proto is a full-fledged dungeon abuser, remembering how bad he was with the traps he set for her that time. There they also realize that no monster appears, even though people say that there are some very strong ones in the place. Ursula answers him that the creatures are not that dumb, and since they can feel how powerful the Proto is, they will not approach carelessly. Being that the case, the Proto decides to hurry using super acceleration, but on the way he runs into something, this being a large number of flying insects controlled by a countess of the demonic nobility, whose name is Hornet the Indestructible. And this very one already wants to start the fight, but seeing that a bear plans to interfere, she decides to send him a few insects while at the same time she tells Ein that he has become arrogant just for defeating Falco and Shadow, thus launching her insects at him. However, she notices that in an instant he has disappeared, and now she has been pierced by the Proto's sword, who makes it clear to her that he will show no mercy against the demons. Yet the body he has just pierced was full of insects, and now he hears the woman in the distance, who tells him that she possesses the ability Pheromone Leader, which allows her to control her underlings through signals by means of pheromones, and then she asks him which one he thinks she is. The Proto does not care, since he will kill them all. At the same time, Ursula tells him that she has already analyzed the weak point of each one. So, using Sure Strike, there go the diamond-like blows, and he finishes off every single insect. The demon woman sees this and, since she has no chance, decides that she will withdraw for the moment, thus finding a portal with which she tries to flee, but Luana comes out of that place right then and asks her if by any chance she plans to escape. The demon woman, afraid, tries to excuse herself by saying that this man is stronger than she thought. This does not matter to Luana, who finishes off that insect, highlighting that she is surrounded by useless ones, thinking that if someone like that had the rank of Count, then the world is doing very badly, although at least she brought her here. And knowing that Ein is behind, she turns her head and introduces herself as Luana, Duke of the 5 ranks of the demonic nobility. On seeing that demon, Ein knows that she is much stronger than Hornet and that she must be the demon that KCH spoke about. This surprises Luana, since he can know her power despite the fact that she has hidden it, telling him that, for being a monkey, he is not bad. Also that maybe it will be worth coming here for the spirit and killing him on the way. Obviously, the Proto shouts to her that he will not allow it. Luana, confident, asks him what he is going to do, and thus he appears behind her using drain level and then superhuman strength, and now up in the sky he starts hitting her again and again, smashing her now against the ground. More than hurting her, this only excites the crazy woman even more, who, very happy, tells him that it had been a long time since anyone had made her bleed, now using precise shot, which, although they will not stop until they hit him, our protagonist counters with parry. Luana does not understand what that skill is, and when she tries to dodge she notices that she cannot, being struck by those projectiles, and although she comes out somewhat unscathed, she thinks it makes no sense that a single drain level affected her so much, only to then be beheaded by A, and with her head already on the floor she does not finish processing this. It is then that Ken, seeing that she still does not die, points out that the demons are tougher than cockroaches, revealing to her that he did not use drain level only once, since every time he hit her with superhuman strength he imbued each blow with drain level. In short, now she is weaker than the monsters in this area. Luana does not accept this, since she is a genius blessed with a talent and powers reserved for a few, shouting that she will not allow rabble like him to finish her off so easily, thus opening a portal to escape while telling him that she would have won if it had not been for his cowardly drain level, shouting to him that next time she will kill him. And although Ein thinks about finishing this, Ursula stops him because right now the important thing is to see that Cor and May are safe. This the Proto knows, so he decides to do that. Now we see them in front of the crisis of the tree, where the sisters are up there. Alice tells him that it is coated with spiritual power, so common people cannot see them. It is there that the chrysalis opens, where Suar tells him to come in, and when he does they see a beautiful landscape, now meeting at last the blue-haired girl, whom Yuri quickly hugs, and Pina does her special greeting with her, and then she goes to tease Alice, whom Kirst teases saying that she knows that Alice would love to share a secret greeting with a certain boy. There the Prota asks her where May is, to which Korse answers that she is taking a nap, and when he approaches he notices that she is a little girl, so he thinks that it will be best if she keeps sleeping, but when he steps away he steps on a branch, making the girl wake up. Our Prota gets scared, but the girl even more. At this, the Prota tries to calm her, telling her that he is not scary and that he is not suspicious either, making a funny face, but the very silly guy only scares her more. It is there that Yuri comes in, with whom she does calm down, and she jumps into her arms. In the same way she approaches her other sisters, being very happy to see them again, revealing, the little one, that since she knew they would come she made them a flower crown. But she did not finish all of them because she fell asleep halfway, and taking the flowers the little girl had, she fixes it to put it on her hair, promising her that they will make the others together. May asks her how she looks, to which the elf girl answers that she looks lovely. Being so, the girl thinks that surely now everyone in the world will look at her. At that, May appears, thanking Yuri for making her stop crying. However, May shouts to her sister to be careful, since that man was shooting out there. Yuri calms her, telling her that his name is Ein, that he drove away the enemy and that he is a good person, and so the little one apologizes to him. Ein, bending down, asks her not to apologize since he also admits that he scared her, although then he notices that the little one keeps looking at him, so he asks her what is wrong, to which she asks him if she can sit on his lap, something that Enkidu allows, and so, on a bench we see the two of them where the girl also asks him to stroke her head. He does so, but May then asks him to lift her in his arms, something that the good Prota obeys, now seeing how the girl is having fun. Right there May asks him to lift her higher. The Prota, without doubting, obeys, thus leaping in a jump to the sky. But the Underser, once up there wonders if it will not be too much. On the ground the elf girls think that this is going wrong, adding Cor that May's longest crying fits can last up to a week. Yuri says that they will distract her with sweets. Pina thinks that Ein cannot get along with all the spirits, and Alice is only worried. Then at last Ein falls to the ground. But contrary to what was expected, the girl has had too much fun, and moving away she shouts that they will give the results, these being that she has put our Prota on her list of people she likes, something that the other elf girls congratulate him for. May comes near and tells him that she also wants to go with him like Yuri and the others do. At this, Ein asks KCH what she thinks about this. The blue-haired girl thinks that it is fine, since she would like to respect Bay's will, and that he should not worry, since she will protect this place in her absence. Something that confuses Ein, asking her if by any chance she is not coming. Gesta that she must protect the tree. At this, the Prota interrupts her, asking her what it is that she really wants, since in the same way that he wants to respect May's will he also wants to respect hers, knowing that the blue-haired girl wants to go with her sisters, something that the blue-haired girl confirms. And Enkidu adds that she should not worry about the tree, since he will raise a barrier and will leave here a double prepared for anything, something that Cor thanks him for, and thus, snapping her fingers, she makes her spiritual core and Maze appear, trusting thus very much in A, who, very happy, will not fail her. Thus it is that Korch gives the news to her beloved sisters, who are very happy about it. And approaching the little one, the Prota promises her that he will protect her world tree, while also Yuri jumps on him, thanking him for everything and shouting to him that she loves him. Alice, at this, thinks about saying the same, but she gets very nervous and cannot, and Pina makes it clear to her that from there he cannot hear her. Now, moving on from this, we see Ursula with the Prota, where, although they are happy, there are still 4 sisters left to find, but the elf mother knows that they will be able to find them. At that, Ein, getting sentimental, comments that before he hated himself and that he had his heart full of negativity and defeatism, but thanks to them he only wants to make them happy and protect them, feeling that he is happier with who he is, being also very proud to protect those smiles. Ursula, seeing him, remembers how much Ein has grown, feeling somewhat proud of him. It is then that he points out that he does not know why he is telling her all this, thinking that maybe he is doing it because she is his teacher. With this we see how the elf mother lets out some tears that she does not intend to show, since, kicking A, she shouts to him that he had better take care of the cores. Thus beginning the ritual of the spiritual cores, where Ursula tells him that cores gave him the eye of nothingness and that May gave him arboreal creation, and also that his eye leveled up, with which now he can evaluate auras. Gore comes near, telling him that eye of nothingness can undo anything that it sees, although it puts a lot of pressure on the eyes and it is hard to control, but she knows that with the divine eye surely his eye will not be destroyed. Even so, she advises him not to use it too much, since they do not know what side effects it will have. The protagonist understands and agrees, adding that he will only use it in emergencies. May tells him that with her power he will be able to control the trees, showing him by pulling a gigantic tree out of the ground. Lastly, with aura evaluation he will be able to acquire great physical abilities, adding that higher-level demons can control aura and use it to attack. Also, how about the idea that Loanna did not use it because she underestimated him far too much, adding that the protagonist's sword now has the power to destroy evil, being able to cut magic and absorb the enemy's aura to strengthen itself. Something that seems incredible to Inato, feeling that now he can fight at the same level as the demons. Seeing him like that, Ursula finally smiles. Now we move over to Echidna, who is meeting with the high ranks of demonic nobility. All because she says Can is a threat to the rebirth of their king. Now we move to the castle that used to belong to Nigan. This is because the protagonist would like to start the grand cleaning operation. Yuri agrees, so Ursula asks her to tell her if she gets tired so she can blow this castle to pieces. And well, moving on from this, all of them decide to accept, even though the smallest of them does not want to and KS is walking around drunk. Therefore, the protagonist gets a little discouraged, but getting serious, he says that each one will go with her guardian, although as an exception Alice will go with the protagonist and see. This is how they start the grand cleaning operation, where while Alice and Ein were cleaning, this last one promises her that soon he will make her be with her mother again, making Alice realize that she is alone with the Prota. It is there that Inzito asks Alice if her heart has also been stolen. On hearing this, the elf gets nervous, thinking that maybe he already knows what she feels. Everything gets worse when the Prota says that he feels the same. This kills Alice completely, but the Prota was referring to books, since he loves stories that expand the mind, and when he turns around he realizes that Alice is super nervous, thinking that she is liked by the Prota, causing the books to fly through the air and hit Ein. Now with Kurojime, she finished cleaning her area, so she will see how her daughter is doing, where on arriving she notices that everything is spotless. But since the excellent mother notices that it is an illusion, starting a 3-second countdown for her to start cleaning, Pina comes out scared, saying that she was only resting. Even so, the mother with a frightening aura threatens her, while Yuri, very happy, is cleaning with her mother, who notices that her daughter was about to fall, so she quickly goes to help her. But nothing happens to Yuri and Ursula crashes into a pillar. In view of this, her daughter points out to her that she does not have to be so overprotective because cleaning is something she can do, and because thanks to Ein she was able to discover new things, so for that reason she wants him to be happy. Thus her mother knows that if she is happy then everything is fine, so she shouts that they will clean the place so that Ein will cry with joy. At the same time Cor and May arrive at a dusty room, so the older one decides to open the window, and when she does the little one shows her that she found something, which is a cockroach. This scares Kors too much, who out of fear asks her to throw it away. The girl, with no other option, obeys, and the blue-skinned woman says that she almost activated the evil eye. Then she realizes that May found a dress, so she realizes they are in a dressing room. The little one thinks she will look like a princess, something that her excited sister says she surely will, although then the younger one brings her an outfit that is a bit revealing. Even so, she likes it, and when she asks May's opinion, she, like a real critic, says that it shows too much skin and that she likes it more when you have to imagine everything, but that it highlights the good body she has. But right there something comes to her out of nowhere, which we will soon find out. Going back to the Prota, he runs into Yuri, who is wearing an elegant dress. This is because they will hold a welcome party for Kors and May, taking the chance to ask him what he thinks of her dress. He comments that it looks gorgeous on her, something that makes the elf very happy, and so she takes him somewhere else, since it is also a thank you party for the Prota, where on arriving they see all the elves in beautiful dresses, making the Prota feel an impact in his heart because of this exuberant occasion, admitting that all of them look gorgeous, Alice gets nervous at this, but Pina interrupts her, telling Ein that he has to dress formally. Nevertheless, the Prota thinks that he is fine like this. Yuri gets sad about this, so Ursula quickly comes in changing him by force, leaving our protagonist like a true prince, making Alice get heated and very nervous above all. But returning to the party, Yuri asks to dance with Ein. Alice gets sad, but her sister also invites her to dance, since it will be more fun among all of them. And so, with the musical accompaniment of Kuroime, all of them begin to enjoy a good party. Then, in front of the sunset, they are there alone. The elf thanks him for having reunited her with her sisters. So Ein promises her that he will do what he can so that she can be with the ones who are missing. Yuri is made very happy by this, wanting to stay like that forever. Ein says that it will be like that, since every day will be more fun than the previous one, and that is what makes him happiest right now. And so we bid them farewell with a beautiful sunset.